What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the pilot episode of the Officer Nate podcast. And I couldn't be more excited about my very first guest. He's helping me sort of usher in this podcast journey with me. His name is Greg Anderson. Greg is former military, former law enforcement, federal as well as local. He worked for the U.S. Marshal's Office and the Port of Seattle Police Department. He's also a jiu-jitsu black belt. So basically what I'm trying to say is Greg is a badass. And he was gracious enough to come on my podcast with me. And like I said, help me get this kicked off. So let me bring him in here. Greg, man, thanks for doing this for me. Thanks for being on my show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. Just returning the favor. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing your podcast. That was, that flowed so well. And we talked about a lot of things, and we probably could have talked for a few more hours. So this is perfect. Yeah, let's do it now. I wanted to talk about Afghanistan because obviously that's huge right now. President Biden is doing what we all thought he would do and just completely destroy everything once he got into office. And I know that you probably have some thoughts on that. You served over there, correct?
Yes, I did 2 tours in Afghanistan, one in 2002 and then another in 2003.
Okay, yeah.
With 2nd Ranger Battalion.
Awesome. Well, okay, so first of all, thank you for your service. I know I've said it before, but I don't think we can say it enough. But I want to talk about, so for everybody who doesn't know who you are, you're on Instagram, you've got quite a big following. Greg's story is similar to mine. He created an Instagram video last year, right?
It was May 5th of 2020.
Yeah. So it was during the lockdown. We were kind of in sort of the thick of the COVID lockdown and the COVID panic. And Greg did an Instagram video while he was working for the Port of Seattle. He was in uniform. He was in his patrol car. And he basically was just dropping truth bombs on Instagram. The video went viral. It got at least over 1 million views, right?
Oh,
if not more.
I literally think we're probably at like 100 million.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. It's hard. It's hard to tell after it gets shared out of the original platform like Instagram. You just have no idea.
So my video on my feed alone is over 1 million. Mm-hmm. I know some big people like Dan Bongino shared it. And nice. On some private shares alone, it was at 15 million. So yeah, it went crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now you were specifically, you were addressing police officers, you were addressing law enforcement, and sort of imploring them to do the right thing, even though, because I think people misunderstand, and I know a lot of people are worried about this. They're worried about what police officers' roles are going to be when the government implements some sort of law or policy that is immoral, unethical, illegal, unconstitutional. Are the cops going to say, no, we're not down with that. We're not going to do it. We're not going to enforce this law, and we're not going to obey an unlawful order to enforce it? Or are they going to just fall in line and do whatever their agency tells them to do? And I think you, in that video, you were trying to plead with other officers, do the right thing, don't follow these unlawful orders. People have rights. People have First Amendment rights. They have the right to, to freely worship. And I think you were specifically referring to an incident where a priest was actually arrested for holding a church service. Is that right?
Well, that was actually a little after the video. The thing that I saw that kind of sent me over the edge was when cops were being forced to, or I should say asked to, enforce all these mandates. And it was when the guy got arrested for going surfing, and the dad got arrested for going to the park. And the actual incident, and I still remember it to this day, I saw it on my phone the same morning that I made the video, was 2 Hispanic women were doing hair and nails out of their basement, and they did a sting operation and arrested them. And so talking to all my coworkers and all my friends that are in the profession nationwide, every single cop I know, and you'll probably agree with me on this, was appalled with what we were seeing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, that's not how we're supposed to, utilize our authority. The governors and the mayors can't just use us as henchmen at their will. Everybody was on the same mindset, but we kept seeing police officers doing things that that was tarnishing the profession, and it was also trampling on people's liberties and their rights.
Yeah.
And we are the front line here at home to ensure that people's rights and liberties do not get trampled on. And so I have a very strong opinion on this stuff, but I wasn't alone. It wasn't like I was an outlier. It was every single police officer that I talked to was on the same page, but we kept seeing it over and over and over. So what that told me was police officers are going against their own morals and their own ethics because they are being asked to do so by their agency, by their mayor, by their city council. And that's what inspired me to make the video, because we need to hold that line. Mm-hmm. We don't work for the governor. We don't work for the mayor. We work for the citizens. Mm-hmm. And that's why we need to prioritize their rights and their liberties. And when I made that video, man, every single cop that reached out to me on Instagram was like, bro, 100% in your corner. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what people need to hear. And I had chiefs and sheriffs all over the nation offering me jobs at their department or their sheriff's office. The only people that got kind of bent out of shape about it were people in my chain of command. And they're like, hey, Greg, you know, and I think, I mean, we talked about it when you did my show. My chain of command was initially supportive. They're like, wow, Greg, that's a powerful message. We really appreciate you, like, trying to share your thoughts and opinions with people, and we have your back. Like, all of that, just lip service. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they were directed otherwise, and I'm not sure, like, I've had people tell me that it was the governor's office that reached out to my department, but I can't confirm or deny that. So that's just kind of hearsay at this point. But they were directed. That was right out of my chief's mouth. He goes, Greg, we're directed to tell you it has to come down. And I realized, like, okay, your loyalty is with this corrupt government. It's not with your officers that are actually out working the streets. So they told me the video had to come down. And I said, I can't take the video down, sir, because if you listen to my video, I say verbatim, your morals and your ethics and the way that you conduct yourself as a police officer, that has to be prioritized over your paycheck, over your benefits. Because if you don't prioritize it over your paycheck and your benefits, that's a slippery slope. Mm-hmm. Like, at what point are you going to say, you know what, I'm starting to kind of cross the line on my morals and my ethics, but I need to do this because I have kids to feed. At what point do you need to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, I've taken it too far? And for me, I think we need to draw hard lines, and we need to adhere to those lines. Yeah. And man, the profession kind of worries me, to tell you the truth. Like, I know most of the people in the profession are good people. Most officers have a good heart and they have good morals and ethics. But a lot of officers are also reluctant to stand against this wave of tyranny that we're seeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up a good point that if police officers aren't going to hold that line, uphold the Constitution, and stand for people's rights, who's going to? Because if that front line breaks down, then everything else does too. And you're not going to, I mean, the elected officials, I mean, most of them, at least what we're seeing today, they're not worried about it. They're not worried about our rights. They're worried about staying in power. So it's like you said, most police officers are ethical, scrupulous people who try to do the right thing. And I think they're finding themselves, it's sort of like a crossroads, because I understand most police officers live paycheck to paycheck. They rely on those salaries. They rely on those benefits for their families. Most police officers are young. They have young families with young kids. But at some point, your values and your principles have to be worth something, right? They have to be uncompromisable.
Exactly.
And you have to be willing. So I think what a lot of people have to ask themselves, and this goes into, I've been getting a lot of messages from people all over the country saying, "Hey, I'm a school teacher, and our district wants us to get vaccinated, or else we're going to get fired." Or nurses who, they're being forced to get the vaccine, or they're going to be fired. What do I do about it? And I think some people they're kind of hoping for some sort of savior to come in and say, no, this isn't okay. You're violating everybody's rights. But it's not going to work that way. I don't see very many attorneys, at least not that I've heard of, who are taking these cases and saying, yeah, you're right. We got to fight this battle because this is unconstitutional. It's illegal. People's rights are being trampled. So everybody needs to decide for themselves, how much are you willing to lose to protect your rights?
That's right. People are looking for leadership right now. And where you need to go look for leadership is you need to walk into your bathroom and you need to look in the mirror.
Yep.
Right? Leadership starts with you. You need to be the person that stands up and draws hard lines.
Yeah.
And this is what a lot of people fail to understand, because guys like us, we got weeded out in onesies and twosies, right?
Yep.
Oh, this guy did this, he's out of here. That guy did that, he's out of here. And dude, part of me almost believes that this is a coordinated effort to get rid of free thinkers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they don't want free thinkers in the profession anymore. And not only are they weeding guys like us out, but the new hiring processes show they don't want people that stand up for themselves. They don't want people that can critically think. They don't want people that have been engaged in like physical violence. Like, so it's weird that it's almost like they want a lower quality, maybe not a lower quality, maybe that's not the right way to phrase it, but a type of person that is not willing to stand up for themselves.
Yeah. Very agreeable
very
people.
Agreeable. Yeah. And the thing is, we are the ones that hold the power to stop this right now. Right now. If every nurse in America, and here's the thing, guys, I've talked about the vaccine a lot on my show, and some of my best friends took the vaccine. Some of my other best friends believe that it's a poison that is going to degrade their immune system and ruin their body. And I have friends that stand on the spectrum everywhere in between, right? Yeah. So my stance is not a pro or anti-vax. My stance is you do the research, you draw your own conclusions, then you put into your body what you're comfortable putting into your body.
Yeah.
And if that goes against what your agency says you need to put in your body, well, I'm not willing to work for that agency anymore. And guys, I want you guys to listen to this. If you're a first responder, you're a firefighter, you're a police officer, you're a medical personnel, my agency told me I have to do what they say or they will fire me. And it went against my ethics. And so I remember I was sitting in my 4Runner. We were in the Starbucks line ordering coffee when that phone call came through. And it was on speaker so it was going through my car so my wife could hear the whole conversation. And I said, sir, I cannot go against what I believe to be morally or ethically correct because you guys are telling me to. That's not how I work. And my wife looks at me and she goes, I know what this means. And I said, yeah, we both know what this means.
Yeah.
But we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you need to realize if you make a stand for what you believe to be morally and ethically correct, you will be okay. There are other career fields out there. You can go become a real estate agent. You can become an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner, and I'm doing better as an entrepreneur financially than I ever did as a police officer. Yeah. And I actually had someone tell me yesterday, they're like, well, Greg, not everybody is as charismatic as you and can host a podcast. And I said, that's not what I'm telling you to do. That's a path that I took that worked for me.
Right.
What I'm saying is there are other paths out there. And if you think that the only thing that you would be good at is being a police officer, you're selling yourself short.
Right.
You need to know that opportunity is whatever you make of it. And everybody in America needs to know, like, they're controlling us through fear. If you don't do this, your children are going to starve to death. And people are like, fuck, man. Well, I guess I have to do this because I don't know what else I could do to feed my kids.
Yeah.
If you're working for an agency or a corporation or a hospital that uses fear to control you, it's time to get out right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Go find a better agency. And I'll tell you what, like I just did a show on my podcast with a guy named Aaron Westfall, and he's a deputy in Flathead County, Montana.
Mm-hmm.
His agency has his back 100%. And his agency is not forcing all this stuff. And he told me, he goes, with all the stuff that I'm hearing about how terrible the profession is right now, man, it's never been better in my agency. And the reason I bring this up is if you are a police officer and law enforcement is your passion, but maybe it's not working out in California or Washington State. The reality of life is sometimes you have to relocate. Sometimes you have to start over. Seek out, start calling other agencies, do interviews with their chiefs and see where they stand on this stuff. And if you have to move your family a couple states away to start over, but you still get to adhere to who you are morally and ethically, well, that may be a step that you have to take. And
It'd be worth it.
Yeah, because it starts with something like the mask mandate, right? And they say, hey, you got to tell people to put their mask on. If they don't have a mask on, you have to tell them to put their mask on. Immediately, that's going to feel, for me, that's going to feel kind of strange because I don't feel like I have legal authority to tell people what to do with their face, right?
Right.
It's like, well, show me where in the state law it says I have legal authority to tell someone to put a mask on.
Right.
It doesn't exist, right?
No.
And so right there, that should be a hard line that's drawn. And it might not be the end of the world. Yeah, you know what? If I just say put a mask on and they do, then it's all good. I'm not causing waves. But it's like, it's just a little step. And it just starts chipping away at people's rights. Before you know it, you're arresting people for going surfing. And like, man, it's like I'm beating a dead horse with this stuff. But if your goal is public safety, like I'm doing this for people's health, try and articulate how taking a person out of the ocean and putting him in a cage with other human beings is the correct moral and ethical step when we're trying to defeat a virus, as they say.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, if you just detach emotionally and look at what's taking place, we know it's a fucking circus. And police officers should not get pulled into this political theater that we're seeing nationwide. And guys, we're the ones that hold the power. Politicians do not hold any power. Politicians have the threat of power. But if all police officers would just unanimously say, listen, we serve the people, we follow the Constitution, both our state constitution and our national constitution, and we are no longer going to be part of this political theater, it would end tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it takes unity and it takes people to step up. And it also takes leadership to step up. If your patrol commander during a roll call in the morning would stand up in front of the entire shift and be like, just so you know, guys, we're done playing this game. I have your back, and refusal to enforce these things will not get you fired from this agency. And they're going to have to fire me first. And like, take some leadership and put yourself out there. Show your men that you're willing to fall on your sword for them.
Yeah.
But man, we don't see that in law enforcement leadership.
Yeah,
we see the
sure
opposite.
don't.
We see pandering and we see compliance. And that's what's allowed this to grow into a monster.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you're saying, but I'm thinking back to some of the supervisors that I had, and most of them are just in survival mode, just wanting to do, they're just trying to keep their heads above water. But I think that's the problem, is they're going to do that their whole career and then their whole life. And they're going to be stressed out over all of this and wondering, is there something else I could have done? And not even just with COVID and with these, mandates and things like that, but with everything that they disagreed with on a moral or ethical level. And they just kind of let it go because they didn't want to go through the trouble. They didn't want to put their jobs at risk. Like you said, I think the average salary for police officers in the United States is like $45,000. Yeah. Panda Express is hiring at $18 an hour right now. You know, like, and you and I have talked about this before. Being out of law enforcement, it's like your stress level plummets, your quality of life immediately improves, and some guys, they have a kind of a hard time adjusting. I understand police work is very intrinsically fulfilling, and it can be at times. So sometimes you kind of miss the job a little bit, but everything else is so toxic. The your relationship with your administrators, with the city officials, whether it's a mayor or city council members, is that adversarial relationship that you tend to have with those people. Yep. And that's not just with guys like you and I. I mean, I know that guys like you and I who are outspoken and we don't put up with the bullshit. We immediately have that kind of relationship, but it's anybody who seems to kind of step out of line a little bit and wants to exercise some autonomy and some independence and, like you said, free thinking, critical thinking. They don't like those kind of people.
I do not.
And so there's an adversarial relationship automatically with leadership and with your frontline guys who show initiative. But you have to sort of do some introspection and decide what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're willing to lose in order to maintain your integrity, maintain your ethics. And like you said, if it comes down to relocating, I mean, Ron DeSantis in Florida is offering jobs for experienced police officers. Florida is a great red state, and it's, the climate's great. Why not move to Florida? If you're in Oregon or Washington or Idaho and you're having these kinds of issues as a police officer, think about moving down to Florida. Yeah, it's a big deal, but I think just sort of cowering and tucking your tail between your legs because you don't want to make waves, I think that's an even bigger deal.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what you said is like, walking away from the profession, it was the best day of my life in hindsight.
Which is sad, right? It's too bad that it has to be that way.
But here's the thing. It's like the environment and the culture in most agencies, and I was well liked in both of the agencies I worked for.
Yeah.
Like, I was well liked by both my peers and my chain of command. But regardless of me personally and how I interacted with the people in my agency, the culture of the agency, there's a lot of darkness in law enforcement culture.
Yeah.
And most of it stems from pettiness. Like, I used to see people trying to file on each other, people trying to get each other in trouble, chain of command, headhunting certain people. I've been pulled into so many IA investigations that had nothing to do with me personally. They're just like, oh, hey, on this day, we believe that Deputy Hesselrode did this, and we're curious if you saw it. And if you did, we'd like you to make a statement. And it's like, listen, him and I get along. I've always got along with him. Why would you ask me to write a statement against somebody for something that's not related to me? Because you know what that's going to do? That's going to cause tension between the patrol level deputies.
Right.
They don't understand any type of leadership and like camaraderie or building community. And the lunchroom is just cancerous. Like, the conversations that police officers have is usually like, this guy tried to fuck me, and my chief tried to screw me over here, and the commander tried to screw me over there. And it's just like a culture of discontent.
Yep.
And it's sad. And I blame it's like Jocko always says. I don't know if you read his books, if you're a fan of his, but there's no bad teams, there's only bad leaders.
Yeah.
All of the problems that we are seeing in the profession, I'm putting on the leadership.
Yep.
Leadership sets the culture from the top. And I'll tell you an interesting story. Last week, I went down to St. Louis and hung out with the First Form guys. And I don't know, are you familiar with Andy and Sal Frisella?
Yeah.
Their facility is 200,000 square feet. Wow. They have 350 employees on the premises at any given time. It's a massive operation. And I met more people than I can count. Everybody shook my hand. Everybody looked me in the eye. Everybody smiled. Everybody was happy. Everybody was healthy. And they even say, like, part of being on this team is you have to work out once a day. And they have a world-class gym. Yeah. They take care of their people. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. Like 99% of corporations or agencies or companies, they don't put the people first. They put themselves first. Yeah. And then it becomes toxic. They're doing 180 degrees different approach to it down there, where they put their people first.
Yeah.
And dude, the company is absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
They've grown by leaps and bounds in this last 24 months. And so it's like, it was just an interesting perspective to me to see, because I've always said, like, it starts with leadership. Yeah. The culture starts with leadership. And then to see that firsthand, I was like, oh. And here's the other thing that law enforcement is fucking themselves on. When you do have that a very cancerous person, a person that does bring the morale down, a person that does not operate morally or ethically, how long does it take to get rid of that person?
Right.
I've seen it take a decade. I literally, when I was in Los Angeles, I left Los Angeles in 2015, and I was there for 4 years. From the day I got there in 2011, we had a deputy that was just an utter piece of shit. Late every day, couldn't count on him for anything.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally like considered like a combat loss. The supervisors used to joke like, dude, I don't even consider him on my roster because I can't rely on him for anything. So we just hide him in the corner.
Yeah.
And I just heard from the guys within the last 24 months that they finally fired him. And they said, well, we needed to create a paper trail. Then we needed to offer retraining. And then we needed to document everything. And then we needed to have it independently investigated, on and on and on and on. Well, how can you have a functioning team when you can't get rid of your shitbags?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, I told that story to the first forum guys, and Sal looked at me and he goes, you know how long it takes us to get rid of a non-performer? 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I walk over to him and I say, you're not a good fit for this corporation. Pack your bags. And I understand that we do need some type of process to get rid of people, and people do need to have their day in court, as you should say. But the system has just become so backwards that they get rid of the good dudes and they keep the shitheads.
Well, exactly. How long did it take them to fire you for your video?
Well, I'll tell you, it took them about 3 months, but it took them 10 minutes to put me on administrative leave and never put the uniform on again. I never stepped foot in my department ever again after I made that video. They wouldn't allow me to.
Yeah.
They had somebody else cut my wall locker open with bolt cutters and package all my stuff in a box, and they met me in the parking lot with the box. And I remember
that makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, guys,
same thing.
Do you have any type of inclination? Because my chief met me off site at a park to fire me. And I told him, I said, Chief, are you guys fearful that I'm going to do something stupid? Like, do you think I'm going to become an active shooter? Or do you think I'm going to beat the fuck out of you in your office?
Yeah.
I said, be serious. Everybody knows me.
Yeah.
And you want to know what he said to me? This is how fucking cowardly this guy is. He goes, well, Greg, on site, we have to have masks on. And I figured I wanted to just look at you face to face and be open. And I didn't want to wear this when I terminated you.
God. Oh, what a joke, man.
Oh, what a joke.
Dude, our stories keep getting more and more similar because I'll let you finish your story, but I'm going to come back to some of that.
No, go ahead, man. I was just like, it was just painting a picture that like from the bottom to the top, law enforcement is, I like the saying, and I'm sure you've heard this, fuck up, move up, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the shittiest people get put into positions of power. And in the military, at least when I was in, I'm becoming old. So, I mean, it's been 20 years since I got my E5 and became a sergeant. But we were literally deployed to Afghanistan. And my platoon leader said, Greg, come into our hooch. Me and the platoon sergeant want to talk to you about something. I walk in there. They pin sergeant stripes on me. And they've said, we've decided that you're going to be a team leader now. And your new team is Alpha 3-1. And guess what? You're changing over immediately. You're now a leader. And it's like, fuck, dude, I'm not ready for that.
Right.
Like that felt like a burden to me.
Yeah.
But the older I get, I realize leadership should feel like a burden.
Yeah.
And the people that are just raising their hand saying, me, those are the people that typically move up in law enforcement. And nothing could be further from the truth. Like, you don't want, if you're actively seeking being the person in charge of everybody, 9 times out of 10, that person shouldn't be in charge of everybody.
Right.
And so,
well, that's a great point because you see that all the time. I mean, you see it everywhere. Leadership should benefit the subordinates, I guess, for lack of a better word. Leadership is supposed to benefit the people that you're leading. It's not supposed to benefit the leader.
That's absolutely right.
But when you have these people going, I want to be, because they think that there's something in it for them. And that's when you end up having bad leaders, is because they're constantly figuring out ways, okay, how is this going to benefit me? How am I going to move forward, with this? How is this going to progress me? And they completely disregard the people they're leading or supervising.
That's right.
Then you end up with these toxic leaders who are just completely self-absorbed. and nothing gets done. It's a very inefficient work environment. And then you have resentment from the frontline guys who are saying, God, did they put this guy in charge? He doesn't give a shit about us. He's just, constantly trying to make himself look good and see how he can advance himself. And he doesn't care about us at all.
That's right. I always say, when I was with the Marshal Service, a POD, we call them, a plain old deputy, right?
Yeah.
The jump between plain old deputy and supervisory deputy is like $25,000 annually.
Wow.
It's substantial, right?
No kidding.
And so you have to put your name in the pot. You have to take a test, and you have to go through this promotion process. And a lot of people want to go through the promotion process because they want $25,000 more dollars in their bank account a year. And I get it. If you have more responsibility, you should be compensated for that. But at the same time, if you're seeking leadership simply because you want more money in your bank account, that is the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so inevitably you see the wrong people rising to the top because they're motivated by the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to your story about how you said you got fired off site too.
Oh, dude, it was, well, it's funny how I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but in the time that I was with the Twin Falls Police Department, I was given a medal for bravery, 2 medals for meritorious service, a unit citation medal, and, several letters of commendation over the course of my career. But as soon as this issue came up, they put you on leave, kind of like like you experienced. They put you on leave, and then you never set foot in the police department again. They had someone go and get into my locker and get all my stuff out. They met me off site with a box of my stuff and said, "Here you go." And this was still while the investigation was, they hadn't quite wrapped it up yet. But the chief didn't even have the balls to meet me and fire me. He had a couple of lieutenants do it. Now, the one lieutenant I had a real issue with because he was our supervisor when I was a detective, and he didn't know jack shit about investigations. But for some reason, they put him in charge. And I can't remember if I told you this before, but he actually audited my cases along with the cases of 2 other detectives. Now, our combined experience, me and these 2 other detectives, is probably something like 60 years of law enforcement experience and investigative experience. And this guy had never investigated a case in his life, because when he was coming up through the ranks, so he was on patrol for 3 years before he promoted to sergeant. 3 years of street experience. And then after that, he just each promotional process, he just kind of kept getting pulled up through the ranks by his captain, who was his buddy. And he supervised dispatch for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. And, which obviously, dispatch needs a supervisor, but you're going to move him from dispatch into investigations, where we investigate homicides and robberies and, all kinds of crazy shit. And then he's going to come in without any experience and audit our cases and try and decide or tell us that we're not doing it properly or sufficiently. And then he wanted to jam us all up with disciplinary issues. So he was one of the lieutenants that showed up in this parking lot to give me my termination papers, but he didn't even have the balls to look me in the eye. The other lieutenant did it, and the other lieutenant was a guy that I was actually fairly close with, and I still respect him. He was asked to do this, and he didn't want to do it. He was uncomfortable doing it. But it's funny how they treat you like such a pariah after that. After everything that you've done for their agency, now none of that matters because of a frivolous complaint by a citizen, or something that they thought that that you did that was such an egregious offense that they wanted to terminate you for it. But they don't take into account anything else. It's not like they could bring you into the office and say, "Listen, you've done a lot for this department. We appreciate everything you've done. You serve your community, blah blah blah. But we got to let you go." Like at least I could respect them for that. Yep. Yeah, but instead they ostracize you. "Oh, you can't come back into the police department. We can't have that." Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I know. Are you that
start fighting people?
Like, are you that afraid of me? Like, that's what I was thinking. Is like, are you that scared as a law enforcement agency? You're that nervous to let one man come in and collect his belongings? And like, I've never once shown any propensity to be like a loose cannon or yell or fight or any of that stuff, you know? And I think that's probably just how they do business, because most people in leadership are cowards and most people in leadership are afraid of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the culture that law enforcement has created. And I think it's a good point that we bring this up, because every single police officer listening to your show, make no mistake about it, you are expendable.
Yeah.
How many agencies will always preach family first and we're going to take care of you and this and that, but as soon as they're actually put in a position where they do have to take care of you,
Right.
it's about needs of the agency. It is
Yeah.
not about you. And it's just, I mean, how many times have you seen like retirements where a guy gave 27 years of his life to this agency and they're doing his final call on the radio and he's like, oh, feeling emotional. And then the next day, no one ever thinks of that fucking guy again.
Yep.
The machine keeps turning, and it's going to keep turning with or without you. And so that's why I've really come to the conclusion. It's like, I need to build my own path, and it needs to be rooted in relationships with the right people and focusing on my family and my friends, because any corporation or any agency, you are a number to them. Make no mistake about it. Even if you have cool leaders and you like where you're at, if it ever becomes necessary for them to turn on you, they will. Like, that's what we see, man.
And they'll replace you with someone half as qualified and not blink twice about it, you know?
Yeah, I know. But like, I always tell cops too, I think it's a good thing to bring up. It's like, there is a physical and metaphorical weight that gets lifted off you when you walk away from the profession.
Yeah.
Like, it is not natural. Like, I was starting to feel like I was an infantryman in Afghanistan again with all the bullshit that we had to wear. Oh, well, policy says you need to have this on your vest now. And then policy says you need to have this on your vest now. And it's like, it may just come in onesies and twosies and not seem like a big deal. But 5 years later, your vest is 35 pounds.
Yep.
And you're in and out of your car all day with that weight. Dude, my back and my knees, I felt like I was fucking 65 years old.
Yeah.
Since leaving the profession, my body alone has done a 180. And it's like, oh, well, that's the physical stress, but also the emotional stress of having that cortisol running through your veins all the time.
Yeah.
And when I say emotional stress, I'm not even talking about what you face on the streets. I'm talking about the toxicity within your agency.
Yeah.
Oh, this person said that, and they're going to audit you on this. And it's just like, man, fuck, this report got kicked back because you did this wrong. And it's just nonstop bullshit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, it's the bullshit.
Yeah,
the bullshit just keeps flowing.
Yeah. You step away from the bullshit and it's like, dude, I can fucking, breathing feels easier now. You know what I'm saying? And so
the weight, it gets lifted.
I wouldn't go back to law enforcement for $750,000 a year.
Yeah.
Not in Washington State, for a whole conglomerate of reasons that I'm sure we'll unpack.
Oh yeah, but, we're gonna get that stuff. Good God. But you know, it comes back to, and this applies to everybody, no matter what profession you're in. But speaking to law enforcement specifically right now, because I know a lot of guys who are in the job and they're completely disgruntled and they're just sort of grinding it out until retirement, you know, and it's just a shitty way to live. But if there's ever a time or a sign that you should get out and do something that you've always wanted to do, even if it's not lucrative, right? If it makes you happy, and if it's something you enjoy doing, and now all of a sudden your state or your city or your agency is trying to trample on your rights with whether it's vaccine mandates and vaccine passports, or whether it's something you said on Facebook that some idiot in your town doesn't agree with and they filed a complaint with your chief, get out and go do something you enjoy doing. Because like you said, you are 100% expendable and replaceable. Yep. So it could be today, it could be something you posted on social media, or it could be 5 years down the road, but your agency will not bat an eyelash at firing you just because they feel like it. Yeah. So get out and go do something that you enjoy doing. Go do something that's going to make you happy. Even if it's, sleeping in a tent on the beach so that you can surf or, as long as, right. Because I don't think you can put a price on, your mental health, your emotional health, and even like you said, your physical well-being. I mean, and those things take a beating in law enforcement.
Well, and how many times have you heard this? People will say like, hey, you know what? I'm 10 years in and I got 10 to go and I'm out.
Yeah.
Think about that. 10 to go and I'm
Mm-hmm.
out. I've heard that 1,000 times. I'm sure you have too, and every cop listening. What does something, how good should something have to be to take a decade of your life?
Right.
Like, oh, I only got 10 more years to go. Like, that's a fucking crazy perspective to have. I'm gonna willingly sign up for 10 years of unhappiness. Because if you're saying that, well, I got 10 more years and I'm out, you're articulating that I'm not happy of where I'm at right now, but I'm just gonna grind it out for another 10. And it's like, dude, this is our one chance. Like, life is finite enough. Like, your life in this existence is going to be over in the blink of an eye. So this is our one shot to build meaningful relationships, enjoy our time here, and do what fills our cup. And if you're already saying, man, 10 to go and I'm done, like, what that tells me is you're going to be a statistic. And statistically, cops have heart attacks after retirement because of 20 years of stress.
Yeah.
Like, the human experience is not supposed to be 20 years of stress.
Right.
It's supposed to be peaks and valleys of stress, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like, you face some adversity, but then it's the yin and yang. You should have the equal and opposite experiences of enjoyment and fulfillment. And man, I just don't think that's the human experience anymore. It's just grind. Congratulations. Here's a little fucking certificate saying we appreciate you. Then you go have a heart attack.
Then you die. You work until you die. Life's a bitch and then you die, right?
I always say on my fucking show, like, this is modern day slavery. They've just replaced the whip with a paycheck.
Yep.
Because make no mistake, you will do what you're told or else.
Yeah.
But it's not physical harm anymore. It's emotional harm.
Yeah.
And it's financial harm. But you are not a free person until you make that conscious decision, and then your actions follow up with that. You make yourself a free person. But very few people are. And I'm telling you, and I know you'll agree with me, once you say, like, you know what, I'm done with the bullshit and I'm going to carve my own path and I'm going to pursue my own happiness, your life can do a 180, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And people just get stuck in that rut, and I've been there. I have been there. I've been,
of course,
you're in that job. You're like, okay, this is my career. I want to do the best I can. I want to promote and advance as much as I can and be as successful as I can possibly be. But then you get so single-minded, you get tunnel vision, and you don't look off to the side in the periphery where there are other opportunities. It's not a bad thing to look out for yourself in that regard, looking outside of law enforcement, or even if it's just to another agency. And, because you get chiefs and captains, they try to throw this guilt trip on people like, well, we need loyalty. We need people to be loyal to this department. And we've had guys leave and go, go like get deployed. If they're with the National Guard, they get deployed and then they come back. And that's a little bit different. But you have some guys go work for like private outfits, like contractors, and then they come back, or, they go take a car salesman job and it didn't work out. And then they come back and, but then those people kind of there's like this stigma around that, because, these chiefs and these captains and mayors are like, well, how come they're not sticking around? Where's the loyalty around here? It's like, what are you talking about?
God forbid you try something else.
Yeah. God forbid you look out for yourself and try to make your life a little bit better and they throw that guilt trip on you, knowing damn well that if they don't like what you post on social media, you're done.
Well, and as long as they're signing your paycheck, people feel like they're beholden to them to a certain extent, I mean, this is a little off topic, but it's kind of relatable. And I've been thinking a lot lately where there's different tiers of society, right?
Yeah.
Down at the very bottom, you have your fucking degenerates and your drug addicts and all the people that are like committing crime and ruining our cities. And it's like, I live in Seattle, so I have a front row seat to that shit every day. All the drug addicts, all the homelessness. And it's like, those are the bottom tier of society. And once you get outside of that, that's people that are like, okay, I'm going to make something of myself, right?
Yeah.
And they find a job, or they're pursuing an education, they're pursuing a trade. Maybe they're like learning how to weld or metalwork, and they start to become the section of society that, like, I call the worker bees, right? They're on the grind, and they're learning how to make money, and they're buying houses, and they probably have a car payment, but they're making it work, right?
Yeah.
And I think the worker bee section of society, most of them are an admirable group of people. Like, they're doing what they need to do for their families, right?
Yeah.
And then above that, you have this group of people that are millionaires. They're CEOs, they're entrepreneurs that started successful businesses. They're people that are thinking outside of the box, and they're making their money work for them. And those people that are at the top tier, there's only one path from the bottom to the top, right? You have to go through that worker bee phase. You have to be on the grind for a while. You have to put your time in, because that's where you learn that life experience. You learn how to interact with people. You learn how to pursue goals. And I put, like, military and law enforcement, which was 20 years of my life, I put that in the worker bee category, right?
Yeah.
But don't think because you're in that category that you're stuck there forever.
Right.
I think that category is a necessary life experience where you build your skill sets, you build your knowledge, you build your relationships. Then you ascend above that. You shouldn't sell yourself short and feel like you're going to be stuck there forever. This is just my life. That's your life if you make it your life. And again, it doesn't have to necessarily come back to money. Like, I am financially motivated. I want to become a multimillionaire. Those are some of my goals. And I'm reading books and listening to podcasts. And that's something that's going to become important to me. And I've actually, like, made bets, because I've been hanging out with a lot of very wealthy people lately. And I'm not saying that like, oh, my friends are so rich. What I'm saying is, you rise to, what's the saying? Like, you rise to the average of your top 5 friends, or whatever it is, right? Like, the people you surround yourself with. Like, if I want to be the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world, then I need to be rolling with Gordon Ryan and Buchecha, right?
Yeah.
The same thing with finances, the same thing with your mental well-being. If you're hanging around good people that build you up and prioritize you as a human being, you're going to become a better human being. Whereas if you hang around toxic people that drag you down, you're going to get drugged down. And so my point of this rant is, you create your environment, you create your future, you create your goals, and then you build the environment to fulfill those goals. And I think that it's easy for people to get stuck in the worker bee category, and they never ascend past that.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be a goal. Like, I should work for myself one day. I should be calling the shots one day. I should have my own business one day. But our culture doesn't. I mean, do they teach that stuff in school? Do they teach entrepreneurship in school? Do they teach you how to be fiscally responsible? None of that stuff. It's kind of, I feel like that's kind of been removed from our culture, and they want everybody to be stuck in the worker bee category.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it. I guess society needs that to operate, but it's just kind of bizarre that, like, you're almost the weird one if you want to be better, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like those, you should progress through those tiers that you're talking about as you age, right? So, out of high school or college, you find yourself in that worker bee category where you're finding your job, you're kind of, you're feeling things out, and like you said, you're grinding and you're developing your skill sets and you're improving yourself in whatever your craft is, right? And then once you spend a few or several years in that category, as you age and as you get wiser and smarter and more skilled, then you sort of have to push yourself up out of that tier and into the other realm that you're talking about, where you're an entrepreneur, becoming multimillionaires or whatever the case is, or maybe even if it's not financially, but you're working for yourself or doing something that you really enjoy, and it's no longer a grind. It's just like you're breathing, right? You're doing your thing, you're in your element, and that's your lifestyle. And it doesn't seem like work at that point. But the problem is I think in order to do that, like you said, spend time with people who are smarter than you, with people who are better than you at all the things that you want to do. Because I think ego gets in the way a lot of times with people, because they feel like, well, I don't want people to know that I'm not the smartest or the best at
Yeah.
this. They can't know that about me because that's weakness. Well,
Yeah.
okay, then you're going to spend your whole life down in that worker bee level or below it, because you're not willing to admit that you can learn something from someone else, and that somehow that you know it all and you've got it all figured out, when in fact you don't. But I agree with you 100%. I think that's the key, because you learning from other people and studying other people, and being willing to say, hey, you're really good at this, I'm not so good at it. How can you help me? What can I learn from you? And you like you said, surround yourself with people like that. And then suddenly they're pulling you up with them instead of dragging you down, like you said.
And it's inevitable. If you hang out with winners, that's the first step to winning. You know, you hang out with losers, that's the first step to losing. And it's like I always tell my students, because I have 140 students at my jiu-jitsu academy. And I mean, I've been a black belt since 2014.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, if you're the toughest man in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
All right. And that goes for fighters. That goes for, like, if you're motivated by money, then you need to be hanging around people that know how to make money. If you're motivated by fitness, you need to be working out with people that are fitter than you.
Yeah.
Like, and the same thing with just overall intelligence. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yep.
And so it's like, it's kind of weird, because I mean, I feel like I had imposter syndrome for a while, because I was this, like, people would kind of look at me as like, oh, he was in special operations and he's a black belt, and kind of put more value on me than I put on myself. Right.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I mean, I'd sit in bed and be like, okay, yeah, I'm a black belt, and I got 14 deployments to the Middle East, but like, I don't feel like I've really accomplished anything. I still feel like I kind of suck at everything. And I would say it wouldn't be until this last 18 months since I was fired and since I've started this new journey where I've realized my own value.
Yeah.
And by realizing my own value, I'm accepting of it. And I'm seeing, like, the groups of people and the friendships that I'm building, and the people and the places that I'm investing my time and my energy. I do believe in my own value now. And once you believe in your own value, other people see it more so than you. And it's interesting how it starts to change the trajectory of your life. And it's like, it's really incredible to feel like all of these people that look to me as someone that may improve their life or help guide them. Or, I mean, I'm sure you're starting to get it just as much, dude, where, like, people are asking you your opinions on stuff. Emails are coming through.
Yeah.
And I try and respond to people with, like, I actually got in trouble from my wife the other day because she heard me responding. She heard me responding to a guy, because I do speak to text when I'm responding to emails.
Yeah.
And she goes, you gave that guy a more heartfelt and sincere response than I've ever gotten from you. You know? And I said, wait a minute, am I getting in trouble for being, like, kind and genuine to someone? But my point is, once you believe in your own value, I feel like the sky's the limit, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's an awesome point, because I really like what you said about, people kind of looking to you like, hey, I bet Greg knows how to solve this problem, or, I bet he can help me with this. He probably knows what he's doing and knows what he's talking about. And I think the people start to look at you that way because you've set about just trying to accomplish your own goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not worried about what everybody else thinks. You're not worried about whether or not you're inspiring other people. That's so fucking annoying, by the way. Like, you see all these people on social media and they're posting selfies and like, I just want to inspire people. Shut up.
Yeah.
Listen to Michael Jordan.
Yeah. The authentic way to inspire people is be good at being you.
Yeah. Be great at something.
Yeah.
Instead of posting about how you want to inspire everybody, you don't inspire anybody by taking a selfie in the bathroom. You inspire people by actually accomplishing something remarkable or great. And you don't do that by constantly worrying about what everybody else thinks of you.
Yeah. I mean, I heard Andy Frisella say this when I was visiting with him last week. He goes, a lot of people are hiring, like, business coaches and life coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And those business coaches and those life coaches They don't have multi-million-dollar corporations. You know what I'm saying? They haven't built a business from the bottom, and their business is telling you how to build a business. He
Yeah.
goes, me as a business coach, I built First Form. The proof is in the pudding. I now know how to build a business. You can go
Yeah.
run the fucking numbers. And now I'm here to coach you on building a business, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that's along the same lines as those Instagram influencers trying to inspire people. It's like, well, what have you done? Why should you inspire me? You know?
Yeah.
And that's what helped me get out of this imposter syndrome, man, because I can't tell you how many emails I've received in the last 12 months since my podcast is starting to gain momentum.
Yeah.
And bro, I've realized now that my perspective and my words and my experience is literally changing some people's lives.
Yeah.
And I've had people like, I got an email last week, and it was a gentleman that's like, man, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and it was diagnosed terminal. And he goes, once my friends and my family found out that I was diagnosed terminal, he goes, it's almost like they just already accepted that I was dead. The phone calls stopped, the text messages stopped, and I was just I felt more isolated than I've ever felt.
Wow.
And he goes, I started listening to your show, and you talk about like investing in yourself and staying on the grind and taking care of your health at all cost, and staying motivated to do the things that need to be done even though you don't want to, and all these little details of his life that he wasn't investing in as much as he should have. He said, even as someone that was diagnosed terminal, I decided I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to invest in myself. And he said, dude, he changed his diet around. He started believing in himself. He started working out. And guess what happened? He fucking started beating the cancer.
Nice.
And the diagnosis was turned around because he found his health and he found his happiness. And that holistic approach to becoming healthy,
Yeah.
dude, he ended up being, I don't think he's like in remission yet, but they're saying like, oh, wow, you're now, the diagnosis isn't terminal anymore. And he goes, it's because of your camaraderie and your belief and sharing the things with your listeners and your authenticity. He's like, you were my friend through this dark time. You
Yeah.
gave me the camaraderie to get through this. And it's like, I'm just speaking into a microphone like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
But because we are being authentic and we are sharing what we believe to be our truths, it resonates with people and it helps people.
Yeah.
And I've got enough of those emails now to know it's like what we're doing right now. Yeah, this is just me and Nate hanging out, but there's a lot of people out there that this will reach, and it actually impacts people. You know, it's a real thing now.
That's incredible, man. That's the way. I mean, that's more important than helping someone build a multi-million-dollar business. I mean, if you're, and not even realizing it, you know, bringing someone back from, you know, a death sentence, you know, when, I mean, that's really shitty about his friends and family who just kind of abandoned him. It's like, oh, well, okay, I guess we don't have to bother with texting anymore. That's pretty shitty. But it'll be interesting to see how those relationships turns out when he beats this thing.
I know, right?
Like, talk about who your friends are, you know, when you're in the time of your life when you need people the most.
Yep.
But that's awesome, man. That's really incredible. And that's, again, like you said, being authentic and not worrying about what the outside world thinks of you, what they think of what you say, whether or not they agree with you. You're just doing your thing and you're striving for that, you know, that self-actualization, right? The top of the hierarchy of needs, right? And I think people just notice. I mean, when you're doing good things and great things and remarkable things, people will notice without you having to tell them, hey, look how amazing I am. It's always the people who are jumping in the air going, look at me, I'm so great. And they're not great.
Yeah.
But the people who are busy doing great things, those are the people that get noticed.
Well, and here's another important point that I think we should bring up is that if you're being authentic to who you are and you're living life on the terms that you think are correct, a lot of people are going to hate you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've come to the realization, because when I mean, dude, I was a patrol cop less like 18 months ago. My life was, I was the worker bee. I was doing the 9 to 5. Right.
Yeah.
And when I first got a platform and started speaking to just whoever pushes play and here's my voice.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to walk that line where I was like, okay, I don't want to say shit that's too offensive,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I want to be authentic in who I am.
Yeah.
And what you find is if you're being authentic, there's people that are going to hate your guts, and then there's going to be people that love you. And if you try and appease everybody, you're going to appease nobody.
Right.
And so by being who you are, you're going to build the right relationships, and then you're actually going to push away the wrong relationships. And
Yeah.
it ends up working out exactly how it should.
Yeah.
Because I don't care who you are or what you do or what your politics are, your sexuality, like we don't all get along, right?
Right.
That's a part of planet Earth. And it's like I can respect everybody, but we're also not all going to get along. And so finding your tribe, finding your niche, finding your circle, you find that, and you find that to be more powerful when you're authentic to who you are. And then you build that circle, and it's pretty incredible to see unfolding in real time.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that documentary, The Last Dance, on Netflix? I don't know if you're a Michael Jordan fan or a basketball fan.
I don't know. I have not.
It's really good, but it's good for me.
Wait. That's the 10-part series, right?
Yes.
I did watch that. That's right.
So
yeah, incredible. And my biggest takeaway from that?
What's that?
Scottie Pippen got fucked, man.
Oh, dude, hard.
He was the number 2 guy the whole time, and they never did shit for him.
Never had the number 2 salary ever.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
But yeah, no, that was a powerful documentary.
It was. And the reason I don't know if it's the same for you, but there's a certain amount of nostalgia attached to that, just because I grew up, in the 80s and 90s watching Michael Jordan win 6 championships and just being the best ever at basketball. But he says something in one of the episodes, because he's talking about some of the criticism that he got from fans, and when what was it? Oh, he endorsed a political candidate, or no, his refusal to endorse a certain political candidate, and he started talking about fans and followers, and he said, I didn't start playing basketball with the idea that I wanted to inspire people. I play basketball, and I'm paraphrasing. It's like I play basketball because I love the game of basketball. And if I inspire you, great. If I don't, follow somebody else.
Yeah.
He wasn't worried at all about how many followers or fans or how many people loved him. He was focused on winning championships. And people loved him for it. Some people didn't love him for it, but a lot of people did. And I think, it's huge. It's a very simple concept, but I think it's something that people forget because they're always worried. Okay, how many likes did I get on this Instagram post? It didn't get up over 1,000. Maybe I should delete it. Stop worrying about that stuff. Just create. If you're a content creator, for example, just create your content. Be authentic. Be genuine, and don't be pretentious, because I think people can sniff that out really easily. And just do your thing, and then like you said, the right people will follow, will come to you, and you'll create this tribe or this group or this following that's real.
And then also know this is that the people that cast stones at you the most, the reason they're doing that is because they're not happy in their own skin.
Right.
They're projecting their own insecurities and their own negativity on you because they're not content with who they are. Yeah. Because there's a million people on Instagram that I couldn't disagree with more. And I think their politics are shit. I think their morals are shit. I think their bullying tactics are shit. But do you know what I don't do? I don't take any time out of my day to write them and try and tell them how shitty they are. You know what I mean? Like, think what someone would have to do or say for you to take time out of your day and say, you know what? You're a fucking loser.
Yeah.
Like, if I think someone's a fucking loser, I just keep scrolling past it.
Exactly.
Or I delete it. And, especially like in the comment sections, it's easy. I'll get 100 comments that are people like, wow, that's so awesome. You're an inspiration. Thank you for this, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of nice stuff.
Yeah.
And then one person will say, you're a fucking idiot. And it's like that one person grabs your attention.
Yeah.
And when my Instagram blew up overnight, and so that was new for me. I didn't have people on the internet telling me I'm a fucking piece of shit. Yeah. And it used to be like, well, wait a minute, why am I a fucking piece of shit?
Yeah.
And like if you engage those people at all, they're not writing you're a fucking piece of shit. So you can have a cordial back and forth, and then you can convince them, no, I'm actually not a piece of shit. I'm a nice guy. They're calling you a piece of shit because they get something out of negative interaction.
Yeah.
They want a back and forth. Fuck you. No, fuck you. Fuck you. That's like the rat pushing the fucking pain button. You know what I mean? Like they're getting a little bit of a fix every time you have a negative interaction with someone.
Yeah.
And they've even proven, like, scientifically, this shit gives some people like dopamine spikes, and they get addicted to being trolls. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's why there's so many of them.
That's exactly. And so it's like, I was hanging out with a girl last weekend at the Attila's gym event, and she says, her name's Emily Hayden, and she's like a fitness model with like 300,000 followers, super cool chick.
Yeah.
And she told me, she goes, a rule that I came up with that is that if I feel like I need to respond to someone that's said something negative to me, I have to go respond to 10 people that gave me positivity first. So I can have like 10 positive interactions with people, and then give yourself a pass to go to that person and be like, either challenge what they think or share your opinion with them. And I think that's kind of an interesting way to live your life, because it's like, okay, if I know I'm going to have a negative interaction with someone, let's make sure I have a bunch of positive interactions too.
Right.
And, the world of the internet's weird, because we're navigating this new way of interacting with people, where since the beginning of time, if I wanted to communicate with you, it was face to face. Yeah. And then 80 years ago or whatever it was, the telephone came.
Yeah.
And now we're all face to face, real time, worldwide. And I think a lot of people use that as an opportunity to conduct their behavior in a way that they would not otherwise.
Right.
And bro, that's a big part of like some of the issues we're seeing in society, in my opinion, is a lot of people talk to people in a manner that is not acceptable by any metric of how humans interact.
Right.
But it is what it is now, you know? And so the people that are good natured and good human beings, we've used the internet as a tool to grow and build friendships. And bro, like exactly like you and I talking right now. And whenever you're in Seattle, we'll probably go grab a beer or something, right? Like I've built a lot of friendships with people that are very meaningful and very good people. So the internet is a powerful tool for good, but it's just as powerful of a tool to be a shitty person too, you know?
Yeah. Dude, those trolls are, man, they're out there in droves. Just like, when the funny thing is too, is most of them, you know, I get sucked into that a little bit too. I'm like, what? He called me an idiot? I'm not an idiot, you know? And so, then I click on his profile and I see that, you know, he doesn't have a profile picture. He doesn't have any of his own content on there. He's literally created that account
to go make people feel shitty.
Yeah. It's like, you literally have nothing else better to do with your life than to make mean comments on someone's Instagram or TikTok. And those people deserve no attention from anybody. Yeah. So, I mean, that's awesome that, what is Emily Hayden, you said?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to start implementing that, because I find myself getting sucked into that too a little bit, where I'm focusing on the negative comments instead of on everybody else who's posting all these wonderful, positive things. And I try as best I can to respond to all of those positive things, but it kind of frustrates me that I get sucked into that one or two negative comments on there when I just need to completely shut it out, you know?
Yeah. And here's the other side of it. If someone's in disagreement with me over whatever it is, right? I mean, I have friends that are liberals. I have friends that are on the complete other side of the political spectrum, and we respect each other.
Yeah.
And we can have like debates about stuff. And sometimes it gets kind of heated because we're both like, we're passionate people, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a way to have a disagreement.
Yeah.
And a way, like I literally had a guy call me a fucktard the other day. And I actually, and bro, I violated my own rule because I said, you and I both know that you would not call any of the men in this picture a fucktard to their face.
Right.
If you're willing to prove me wrong, let me know. And then I left it at that.
Here's my studio address.
because like we both know nobody's going to come to my gym and sign a waiver and call me a fucktard.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm a 40-year-old man with 3 kids, and like why do I want to fight a guy off of the internet? That in itself is silly, right? Like,
I don't know. Maybe you can be like Logan Paul and make some money off of it.
Well, so do you know Mitch Aguiar?
No.
So he's a friend of mine that, again, I met on Instagram, and he's a Navy SEAL. He's a pro fighter, and he's a fucking cool dude. We've hung out a lot over this last year.
Yeah.
And he had a guy, he was calling him a whatever on the internet. And Mitch said, come to my gym and say that to me. I fucking dare you. And I guess this guy like had some MMA fights and whatever. So he thought like, oh yeah, I'll fucking come to your gym. But Mitch is on a different level. I mean, he is one of the most ferocious grapplers that I've ever fucking grappled. And the guy did. He showed up to his gym, signed a waiver, and Mitch beat the fuck out of him. And it's like, oh well, I guess the story can have a happy ending sometimes.
How satisfying is that, though?
No, right?
That's awesome. Well, you know, the funny thing is, and we might have talked about this when I came and did your show. It seems to me that the people like you and everybody, all the other people that are kind of in that category, you know, you've had military experience, military training, martial arts training, right? Very like high level stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't see people like you out there just talking shit to people.
No.
Right?
No.
Well, because I think you understand that, you know, from an intellectual standpoint, that you just don't get anywhere with that. But I think it's the people who are making comments like that. They're so insecure, right? And they're not because we talked about this. I know that martial arts training specifically builds confidence. It builds character. And once you get into that and you become at least somewhat proficient, you start to have this confidence and sort of even the self-awareness that I don't need to talk shit. I don't need to make these snide, derogatory, belligerent comments to people. But you also, I think part of that is that the more you get into that, at least with regards to martial arts, the more you realize there's some badass fuckers out there who would whip my ass in a minute.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Like, I understand not only through martial arts and fighting, but through combat and deployments. Like, I know what extreme violence looks like up close and personal. I know what it's like to shoot someone in the face from 5 feet away. And it's like, I think people that are like combative over the internet, or even some people that are combative face to face, it's like, I've seen extreme violence play out in real time right in front of my face, where people are getting killed and there's fucking bodies on the ground right in front of you. And it's like, I don't want to engage in combat with someone unless it's a fucking serious issue. And if you want to engage in combat with me, this is what it could potentially look like.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand, like, that's how some people are wired. If you fuck with me with my kids, you're probably going to get fucking killed. Right. And it's like, I'm not here to puff chests and act like a badass. It's like, but the reality of planet Earth is there are some men out there that are dangerous motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. So why would you ever potentially like cause conflict or disrespect those people when you don't need to? You know, I always tell the story when I started fighting MMA, and I mean, I only took a couple cage fights, and I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So I focused on grappling more than anything. Yeah. But when I started training MMA, there was this Panamanian kid. His name was Alex, and he came to America. He came up through Central America, and he crossed the border illegally, and he outrun border patrol agents. Like, he told me the story, you know? Yeah. And fast forward 18 months or whatever, I was training MMA with this guy. He was 135 pounds. And he would beat the shit out of me. And I was a 200-pound Army Ranger thinking like I was tough as shit. Yeah. And then I realized it's like, oh, this is a real thing. And he ended up fighting for Strike Force. So like a step down from UFC, but still he became a very high level fighter. And I remember that I'll never forget that moment, because it's like, if I saw this guy in any setting outside of the gym, I would be 100% sure that I could crush him inside of 45 seconds. Yeah. No. Yeah. He would fucking, he was so good at fighting. He knew how to outwork me, how to outposition me. And those people are out there. Yeah. And you don't know who knows what anymore. Because if you go to an MMA school, I always joke about this. When I trained at this MMA school for a long time before we ever went out to dinner as a team, right?
Yeah.
And then we all go out to dinner as a team, and it's like a couple dudes are dressed like cowboys, a couple dudes are dressed like gangsters, a couple dudes are dressed like nerds. Like, it's all walks of life brought
Yeah.
together through fighting. Like, you never know who knows what, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's nice to know, like I said, a lot of these people are on our side, right? And you want them on your side. Guys like you and, all these other, like, high level fighters, martial art guys. I did jiu-jitsu for a while. I think I told you that. I got my blue belt,
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but I remember,
but it is a big deal though. It is a big deal because
to me it is.
Well, a blue belt versus someone that has never stepped on the mat will be a massacre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, especially as a police officer, if you're not a blue belt and you're a cop, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Oh, anyways, yeah, for sure. No, for sure. That's a good point. But like you were saying, I got the opportunity to roll with several black belts, and it was shocking how easy it was for them to obliterate me. We have this, we have a guy here locally. His name is Cesar Sklavos. He was an MMA fighter for a while. I think he got out of it now, but 125 pounds, maybe, if he had on a wet gi,
Yeah.
And he would just work me. And I'm like, how is this happening? I'm a big, strong guy.
Physics.
Yeah. And it's like people don't get it. They don't understand. There are people out there who will destroy you, and you're over here talking shit to them. Luckily there's a keyboard in between you, and several hundred or 1,000 miles, and you're talking over the internet. But like you said, man, if any one of these guys were to come say that to your face, hopefully you'd probably just laugh it off. But like you said, if they started to threaten your kids or, your family or close friends or anything like that, they be in for a real world of hurt.
Well, my wife was getting emails like when this first kicked off. And I guess maybe because they feel better threatening my wife than threatening me. They're like, your husband's a fucking piece of shit. I hope to see your kids get killed someday. Shit like that. God. And it's like, bro, this is no longer like internet bullshit.
Yeah.
If you wish harm on my fucking babies, I will fucking cut your head off and put it on a pike at the end of my fucking driveway.
Yeah.
I've been as savage as men can be at times in my life. And that's still in there if you want to fucking go there. And it's like, why would you ever, for me to threaten somebody's babies, I'm in full, I would only do that if I was literally trying to entice them to fight me to the death.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're wired differently. If you think you can joke about killing my fucking kids, I'll die today.
Yeah, that's off limits.
They're going to threaten my fucking babies. It's just a weird thing. But I mean, you were born in 81, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I remembered that. And I was born in 80. So I remember we realized we're basically the same age. And when I grew up, if you talk shit to someone in high school, I'd see you behind the church after fucking last period. Yep. That's how we handle problems.
Yeah.
And that is a thing of the past. Talking to the kids that are part of my jiu-jitsu academy and stuff now is like, even if you get in a fight off school grounds, they will still suspend or expel you. And it's like, well, how can they do that? I can do whatever I want after hours. Not anymore. If the school hears about it. And it's like, those lessons are important to young men because it's like what I say to you in wood shop during 6th period is going to have consequences that I'm going to have to face in an hour.
Yeah.
And so
oh shit, I shouldn't have said that.
And even though that sounds kind of funny and silly, and we look back on those memories fondly, getting in a bunch of dumb fights as a kid, I also think it kind of sets a baseline of reality in our minds of how you interact with people.
Yeah.
Because now their baseline is, I just say whatever I want. It doesn't matter. It's like, that is not going to serve you in the real world. And I'm not even saying you're going to go out there and get your ass kicked, but that goes into how do you talk to customers? How do you talk to your boss? How do you interact with people in a social setting? establishing a pecking order and establishing respect and establishing like proper ways to interact with people, that's something that you need to serve you for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah.
And people are going down these weird paths on how we socially interact. And bro, I think it's a bigger issue in society than we're aware of. I think that may be the foundation of why we're seeing fucking all these Antifa kids and all these fucking 15-year-old girls that want to cut their tits off and become men and all this weird shit that's consuming our society. I think the root of it might be that we're not learning how to interact in a healthy manner with each other from the time we're children, you know?
I think that's exactly right. And I don't know. Well, and I think, you know, it's evolved, right? Because you have a generation of parents now who just kind of let the leash out a little too far with their kids, you know, and they're not there. And I think we talked about this on your podcast too, as far as the parents' role in not smothering their kids, but bridling them a little bit and steering them in the right direction and making those corrections as they grow up, you know, the father being the disciplinarian. Because that's where kids learn respect. That's where they learn respect for authority. That's where they learn respect for your peers, right? And then you can't just go around and treat people like shit all the time and expect them to treat you with respect and feel entitled to the things that you want just because you're you and you exist, you know, even though you're going to completely shit on everybody around you.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's it's the job of the parents to make that correction and knock their kids down a few notches and say, listen, you don't run the show here. Like, you are not the center of the universe. And to get respect, you need to give it first.
Yeah.
But we've lost that somewhere. And like you said, now those are the kids that are burning down cities and looting and rioting. And we've lost that.
And like, I wasn't a fan of my father through my teenage years. I'm the first to say it. Him and I were not close during that time because there was a lot of conflict between us. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking at the time, like, man, my dad is such a fucking asshole. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until I flew the coop and I became a man and I started my own journey that I realized, like, looking back on it, I was like, oh no, he was doing what was necessary to help me grow into a respectable man. Because mm-hmm. if you give a 16-year-old kid the autonomy to do what he thinks is right, he's going to fuck up left and right. So, like, you got to keep those, especially young men. I think it's like that testosterone hits. All you care about is pussy all of a sudden. And like,
driving cars really fast.
Yeah. And it's like nothing matters in your brain that has to do with like anything that's reasonable. It's just like you're on this fucking one-way path and you need to be reined in. And mm-hmm. it's a father's job to do that. It's very difficult for mom to do that. When at 16, I was probably 180 pounds and a pretty good athlete. It's like, what's mom going to do to me? Fucking nothing.
Right.
Oh, but dad can still fucking slap me down. You know?
Oh yeah. He's there to put a pot knot on your head every time you act up.
And so, I think that's an important thing to keep young men understanding where they're at in the pecking order. And once you come to peace with where you're at in the pecking order, you understand that's a lesson that you carry for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And like, I was actually just talking to my wife about this the other day. It's like, I like working for men that are better than me. Mm-hmm. I like having leaders that are better than me. And I'll lead when I think that I am the most suitable person to step up and take this leadership position.
Yeah.
But I'll also happily follow other men that are more highly qualified than me, because from the beginning of time, our survivability was dependent on that. Yeah. This dude's our tribe leader. He's the best warrior. And he needs me to be here at this time and do that. Hey, Roger that. I got it.
Yeah.
And
he knows how to kill the bear that's going to attack us here pretty soon, you know? Yeah.
It's ego that gets in the way of that, because you start to think that you're something special and you should be in charge and you should be calling the shots. And it's like, you should only be in charge and calling the shots when it serves everybody the best for you to be doing that. But when it serves everybody the best for somebody else to be calling the shots, sit down, shut the fuck up, have your eyes open, have your mouth shut, and complete the mission. And I think that that's like a tribal approach to things, but our societies are getting farther and farther away from that, to the point where, like, you got people that literally sleep 18 inches from each other. There's just a wall in between them in an apartment complex that don't even know each other's names.
Yeah.
Like, when in history have two human beings slept within feet of each other and not known that person?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like society is kind of making us go haywire, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're becoming more reclusive, more misanthropic, just kind of
I'm
detesting
gonna
each
have
other.
to Google misanthropic.
So people, well, people often mistake that word or mistake being antisocial for misanthropic. Antisocial is an actual, mental disorder. But people that tend to shy away from social situations and don't really like being around people, that's misanthropic.
Got it.
But you're right, though. I mean, we've kind of evolved to that point, and I think social media probably has a lot to do with that, because you're seeing really every facet of humanity, and a lot, like you said, a lot of the ugliness kind of comes out on social media, and you scroll through Facebook for 10 minutes, you're like, God, I'm having a shitty day already.
Yeah. So, just put your phone down right now.
Yeah. Go put your phone down, go work out, do, the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, and try to avoid the negativity. And like we talked about earlier, responding to the positive stuff. But that's a pretty interesting observation. You do have people living in apartment buildings where they're stacked up on top of each other. And when they walk out of their apartment down the hallway and down the elevator, they don't make eye contact with a single person.
That's right. So, I mean, this is actually a good segue, because something that I just bought 30 acres of remote woods out in the mountains.
Oh, nice.
And something that I want to build there is like I don't want to call it a leadership camp, but almost like a camaraderie camp.
Okay.
So I run a program right now. It's called Guns and Geese, and we teach people the fundamentals of shooting and grappling over a 3-day weekend. And in 3 days, you can't get very good at shooting and grappling. That's just the reality of it. And I tell people that right from the get-go. I'm not here to sell you snake oil. If you suck at shooting and grappling, after a weekend with us, you're still not going to be very good. But what we can show you is the fundamentals, help you build a foundation, set you on a trajectory to where when you leave here, if you stay up on your training and you continue to pursue this goal, one day you will be very fucking good at these skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
But what we offer there, which is more powerful than shooting or grappling, is at the end of the day, we sit around a campfire, we eat dinner together, we drink some whiskey, and we just talk.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you what, the people that have attended our course, and we've only ran 2 courses so far. We have a 3rd one scheduled for late October. We've heard over and over, like, dude, fireside conversation is the most powerful aspect of this course.
Yeah.
Because men like you that again, goes back to what I was saying, people perceive me as someone that has been there and done that. Being vulnerable and talking about things that most people don't talk about. And I've talked about some PTSD stuff. I've talked about overcoming depression, like stuff that paths that most men will walk at some point in their life, but not a lot of men will talk about.
Right.
And so I've decided, because that's been such a powerful tool in people's lives, I want to keep building off of that. And that's what I want to do on this property, and build like a camp where people can go and be open and honest and interact with human beings on a level that we just don't do very often anymore. I'm excited for that, because I think that's the opposite of social media, texting back and forth. We're all gonna put our phones in our cars. We're gonna sit around a campfire, and we're gonna interact with each other in like a literal, like an ancient manner. And that proves to be the most fulfilling. It's pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome, man. I think that it's hard these days, and this might be one of the reasons that people tend to sort of be reclusive as far as staying away from social situations, is that it's hard to find a group of people now who, when you sit around and talk to them, they're not always trying to one up each other.
Oh, I know.
And it goes back to being, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Surrounding yourself with people who, they're smarter than you, they're better than you, or whatever the case is, better at certain things than you might be, but they're also not there to try and toot their own horn and fish for compliments and accolades and things like that. They're just there to share their ideas or their thoughts, and you're there willing to listen. And maybe you have something to share with them too. And them being a smart and wise person would look at you and think, yeah, he probably knows something that I don't. Maybe I should listen to him as well. Yep. And that's the type of environment that people need to seek out. So that's awesome that you're going to create that.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll have to help share that around and get the word out.
Yep, we're actually we're in the process of getting the driveway done right now. It's a 1.24 kilometer driveway just to the property, So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's been really cool to get the ball rolling on this project. I'm excited. I'll keep you posted for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, let's talk about let's talk about all the bullshit that's going on in Washington real quick.
So where do we start?
So your last two, I think your last couple of Instagram videos that you posted, we kind of touched on this earlier. We were talking about, I think you were talking about police officers in general, but mostly I think just to all the state employees in Washington where they're mandating this vaccine. Yep. Right. You have to draw those hard lines. And I think what's more important too, is you have to get organized. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to do that. Cause like you said, they'll pick you off in onesies and twosies, right? It's not a big deal to fire one or two people, but it is a big deal to lose 100 to 200 people. Yeah. That creates that throws a big wrench in the gears of state government. So we have to make it difficult on these leaders who think that they have this authority to mandate something like this. What do you think about that?
So Jay Inslee, our governor, in his infinite wisdom, decided that if any state employee is not vaccinated by October 18th, that he or she will no longer be employed by the state. And they always sell it like, listen, this isn't a violation of your rights or your freedom. If you don't want to be part of this, then you can go elsewhere and blah, blah, blah. You can look for employment elsewhere. It's like, they always try and sugarcoat things in a manner that is so out of touch with reality. It's like, if you dedicated 16 years of your life to an agency, but I'm not comfortable getting vaccinated because of my own personal reasons, whatever they may be, they'll kick you out on the streets. And that's what this government is doing, is like, and they're not backing down. And check this out. This is right out of Jay Inslee's mouth, which is just preposterous. He said, not wanting to get vaccinated for personal or philosophical reasons will not be considered for an exemption. So it's literally saying your philosophy and your thoughts and your opinions don't fucking matter to this government.
Yeah.
How can anybody in good faith, regardless of your opinion on the vaccine, move forward knowing that a government is willing to fucking take your livelihood away for your own philosophy? It's crazy to me. And it's like, this is the most asinine thing about this, is they want to act like we're doing this for everybody's health. This is necessary for everybody's health. We're trying to take care of you. We're trying to help you. But if you don't do exactly what we say, we'll let your fucking children starve to death.
Right.
If you don't do exactly what we say, we'll allow your house to fucking go into foreclosure. Don't act like you're taking care of me on one hand, when you will completely fucking hang me out to dry and ruin my fucking life. Right. If I don't do exactly what you say. The hypocrisy is crazy. And bro, I mean, we've seen it. They're now proposing it for all federal employees too. Unless you work for the White House. Your White House staff, you can just, did you see no. Jen Psaki or whatever the fuck her name is? They said, hey, is the federal mandate applied to White House staff too? And she goes, no, it's not. So it's like everything that we're seeing that is frustrating people, it's rules for thee, but not for me. Yeah. And that is not how the U.S. government works. It's of the people, by the people, for the people. If you look at how, and I talked about this on the video, if like politicians are not supposed to be up here and the people are down here. Right. They're not our leaders. They're not our kings. They are public servants that are in a position to help facilitate government and help like fund things and distribute money and vote on issues. And they're not our leaders. They're not our kings. They don't get to delegate things to us. But for whatever reason, the American political system has allowed these people to ascend to a position where they do think they get to delegate and control us. And it's supposed to be the opposite. the public servants of our nation and all these different positions. I don't care if you're a governor or a mayor. It goes back to what we talked about. You should be serving the public.
Right.
You should be saying, hey, I was fortunate enough to get voted in as mayor of this city. What do you guys need out of me to make this city better? What do you think is frivolous spending? What, like, you know what I mean? Like, let's move forward as a municipality and become better. That's my job here to serve you. Bro, you got fucking Mayor de Blasio saying, if you don't get your vaccine, you don't get to go eat. You don't get to work out.
Yeah.
You don't get to go enjoy theaters. Like, they're fucking they're drunk on power, and they're trying to mandate how we live our lives. Bro, that's not America.
No.
That's never been America. In fact, this country was founded because of people behaving like that.
Right.
And we said, you know what? We're done with your shit. We're going to go start our own thing. And starting our own thing wasn't good enough. They still wanted to fuck with us. No, you owe us taxes. You owe us this. You owe us that. And it literally took men saying, go fuck yourself or fight me to the death.
Yeah.
Like, I always fucking like George Washington, he's on our dollar bill. He's revered as a hero, right? Do you know why he's revered as a hero? Because he said, go fuck yourself. That's it.
Yep.
And if you got a problem with
King George,
if you have a problem with me, we'll fucking settle it.
Yeah. Come on over to America.
Come on over to America and see what happens. And everybody knows how that story played out. But I mean, it's like Thomas Jefferson saying that the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of tyrants and patriots. Like, if you don't have some type of reset or understanding of what a position of power, what that responsibility entails, I think it's human nature. There's two types of people. That are people that do good and perform well with leadership, and they're selfless with it. And it's not about them, it's about the community. And then the other mentality is it's selfish. And this position that they're in, like, oh, I can make this kind of money. Oh, I can influence this over here to serve me, or I can push that bill over there to serve me on the back end. And that's where we're at now. All of these politicians that are pandering to all these fucking like corporations and lobbyists, and it's all about self-serving them. They're not putting the American people first, and shit has to change. And there are some people that are moving towards that direction. You see some people like my buddy Joe Kent. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's running for Congress, and he's a career military guy. And
you did tell me about him.
And he's like us. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. I don't know what it's going to take. And I don't want to be the crazy guy saying, oh, it's time to revolt. And like,
well, but here's the thing, though. You see what's going on over in Australia?
They're putting their children in a fucking stadium.
Yeah, it's
24,000 kids have to show up at the stadium. Parents, you're not allowed in. And they go, oh, but we're going to have police officers there to take care of your kids. I don't give a fuck who's there. These are my children.
Yeah, you're not taking my kids.
And you're not taking my kids and putting them in some mass vaccination camp. And bro, if you would have said this a year ago, you'd be a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. It's happening now.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's sometimes it happens very subtly. Then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, hey, how did we get to this point?
Dude, Nazi Germany happened subtly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's because we're not, like you said, we're not stepping up. We're not speaking out. People are just now is not the time for complacency. Right. If you don't want your employer to force you to be vaccinated or choose another job, then you have to say something. You have to do something. And I think it's going to take organization. Right. Like I said before, you need in this, like in the state of Washington, for example, you're going to need 100 to 200 state employees getting together, drafting a letter, essentially saying, fuck you, Mayor or Governor Inslee, we're not going to fall in line with this. Fire us right now if you have to. Don't even wait till October. Fire us right now if that's your plan, and figure out a way to replace 200 employees.
Yeah,
like
200.
It's gotta be hard.
I would love to see every police officer get on board that and be like, okay, well, on October 19th, Washington State will be 100% lawless, because there will be no police officers. And here's the other thing. If you're a police officer that is chosen to get vaccinated, you too should be standing up saying, hey, I do believe that for my own personal health, this was a good choice, but you don't get to tell my fucking coworkers what they have to choose.
Right.
Like this shouldn't be a left versus right or a vax versus unvax. It should be as simple as we all get personal choice. And you probably saw that video. I believe it was Italy, where people were coming to the streets and burning their vaccination cards because the vaccinated population was saying, we stand for choice. And we stand with the people that have chosen that this isn't good for their health for whatever reason it is. Whatever reason you draw a conclusion that you don't want to get this, we respect that.
Yeah.
And bro, I honestly think more people on both sides of the issue would probably agree with that statement than we're being led to believe.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because
I think for the most part, the majority of Americans are common sense, well-grounded people, who are grounded in reality, who know that, okay, what's going on is not right. The problem is getting those people on board to step up, like the people in Italy. Like, how far are you willing to go to prove to these elected officials that we're not going to tolerate this nonsense, that we have rights that you're not allowed to trample on? They've forgotten a long time ago, just like you pointed out. Listen, if Governor Inslee wants to tell his constituents in Washington that their thoughts and opinions and concerns don't matter, motherfucker, who do you think gave you your authority?
That's right, dude.
We did. You're only in that spot because we elected you.
Yeah. And like, it's time to fucking take those people out of power just as fast as we put them in.
Yeah. But if you're not going to cut it, if you're not going to act in our best interest, then you're out, and we'll find somebody who will.
And so maybe this is all necessary for the pendulum to just swing so far to one direction that people are fed up. Because like I said, my most radically left liberal friend, and I love her. Like, we've always had good energy between us. We've always really liked each other, but our political views couldn't be farther apart, right?
Yeah.
She texted me the other day and she goes, man, have you seen this new legislation, or this new the commission in Washington State has said that they want the right to look into your private personal affairs at any given time. They can read your emails, they can read your direct messages, and you have to sign this document granting the state of Washington the right to look at your own personal things.
Nope.
And she goes, this seems outrageous. And it's like, yes. For the first time, we're starting to draw the same conclusion of people that are both liberal and conservative. And it's like, why would you want, or why would the commission want to be able to look at our private affairs? Well, I'll tell you why. Because then they can weed out the people that they don't think are best suited. So what they're saying is they can revoke your commission. And as you know, if you get your commission revoked as a police officer, you are now unemployed, And so they want the right to be able to look through your stuff to potentially revoke your commission. And I was talking to one of my buddies about it, and he goes, bro, I don't want to sign it. And I think it's the stupidest thing ever. But if it comes down to me keeping my job or not, I might have to, because I got fucking a young family.
Yeah.
And he goes, if that makes me a coward, then so be it. And I was like, because that was what my video said. I said, if you fucking sign that thing and you don't want to, you're a fucking coward. And so like, he was talking to me, and I was a police officer with him, and I fucking love this dude. But you got to realize, if that goes against your morals and you know that it's wrong, you can't sign it.
Yeah.
You can't. They're counting on you signing it. And if you look at what's happened to the professional law enforcement in the last 24 months, they keep chipping away and making you the enemy and taking away your ability to defend yourself. Washington State, you can no longer do chokeholds, period. It's like, I'm supposed to confront this violent felon and take him into custody. And you just took away one of the most effective tools, especially for me. I've honed it over 2 decades.
Yeah.
And you've taken that away from me because some guy died with a knee on his neck while he was high on fucking fentanyl. Like, we're comparing apples to oranges here.
Right.
And so now my job just became that much more dangerous. Or if I do decide, hey, I'm going to have to violate policy here because this dude's a big, strong motherfucker and I can't afford to lose this fight. Now you're looking at being terminated.
Or prosecuted.
I hung out with 2 New York cops last week in New Jersey. And they've both been on the job over 20 years. And they said, Greg, if we touch their neck, and there's any type of video or photographic proof, terminated.
God, dude.
And so you could be chasing a subject down and you shoot a double leg and you wrap him up, you wrap his knees up, you both fall on the ground and you're tumbling around, and there's a picture that gets pulled from that altercation where your forearm is maybe across his neck, terminated. And it's like, how is anybody willing to do this job anymore?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you're feeling it too. Like, I'm grateful I got fired, because if I didn't get fired, I would have had to have quit 10 times for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like, police work is stressful and dangerous enough as is.
Yeah.
And now you're going to lower the likelihood that I get to go home to my family. You're going to make my job more dangerous because of some political theater that's going on. Like, it's absolutely asinine.
Well, speaking of that, I wanted to pull up this, let's see. I wanted to pull up this bill from this, let's see. Yeah. The bill, the police reform bill from Washington.
Oh, we can no longer.
So this, okay. So
stops.
Can you see that? Okay.
Yes, I can.
So this part right here, okay, reading this section right here just reaffirms that the people who are making laws in states like Washington and everywhere else all over the country have no idea the reality of police work. Because when it says right here, a peace officer may use deadly force against another person only when necessary to protect against an imminent threat of serious physical injury or death to the officer or another person. When has that ever changed?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's been that way for decades now.
Yeah.
So it's just a redundancy. But then down here further.
Well, here, I'll unpack it a little bit while you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Because what police officers in Washington State are being told is that you cannot physically detain someone as part of your investigative detention, as part of your Terry stop. I mean, police work is conducted inside of that realm. The Terry stop is where you figure out if you have probable cause or not. That's right. That's literally why you are stopping that person. So I've been using this example on my show. Let's say I'm on patrol and I get a call and it says a guy with red pants and a green shirt just robbed a bank on the corner of Union and First, and he's running southbound on Union. Yeah. Roger that. I start to run code. I'm going that direction, and I see a man with fitting that description, same race, same outfit. The description matches perfectly, right?
Yeah.
And he's running away from the bank. So there's a lot of indicators to me,
right,
that there's a good chance that person is the person that committed the crime. But that is what a Terry stop is for. I say, hey, sir, come over here. You are not free to go. And then I'm going to go into my investigation and I'm going to review surveillance footage. I'm going to talk to witnesses. Maybe you do a street show up where the teller that got robbed comes up and can say, yes, that's the guy, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have probable cause that he's the person that committed the crime until I investigate it a little bit, right?
Right.
Because there's also the possibility that man is out and he's on his morning jog and he happened to have the same color pants on, right?
Yeah.
So the investigative detention is used to confirm or deny that that person was involved in the crime. That is how police work has been conducted for fucking decades.
Yeah.
And now they're saying you cannot stop that person unless you already have probable cause. Think about what you need to develop probable cause. You need to interview witnesses. You need to do those street show ups. You don't develop probable cause until you start to work your investigation. Yeah. And bro, it's exactly what you said. We got people that are making policy and making laws that were never police officers. They were never soldiers. They were never entrepreneurs. They were never small business owners. Yet they're making all of these fucking rules and policies that affect entrepreneurs, small business owners, police officers. And it's like, how in the fuck did we arrive at a place where these people that know nothing about these different professions are getting to dictate how we conduct ourselves in these professions? And so if you can't do an investigative detention, guess what that means? That means you literally have to say, goodbye, sir. Have a nice day. And so, dude, this went into effect July 25th. So this new way of conducting police work, it's not even a month old yet.
Yeah.
They've already had shootings and murders where officers arrive on scene and they had to let people go. They had a guy get murdered in the Kohl's parking lot, and they said an officer was close by and responded and was on scene within minutes. And he even had a canine. He was a canine officer. And they said tracking the suspect is not authorized under the new Washington state law. What? Because having a dog go after someone is a use of force, right?
Right.
And so, no, we cannot pursue this guy, because if the dog goes after him, that is a use of force. You cannot use force until you have probable cause. And it's like, shit is so backwards right now that I'm not interested in being a cop.
No, not at all. Well, and the problem, two of the main problems with police reform bills like this is they're written to protect criminals. And in the process, you completely disregard the rights of the victim, right? So in the situation or the scenario that you just described, guy robs a bank, and let's say he pistol whips the clerk, when he in the process of getting this cash. So now you have the bank as a victim, and you have the clerk as a victim of aggravated battery or whatever. But you can't stop this guy based on the reasonable suspicion that you were talking about, and you can't even go look for him now until you have probable cause to do so. By that time, he's long gone.
He's long gone.
All the evidence that you could have collected from him, or any statements that you might have gotten from him, are done now. You've lost that opportunity. So now you've got victims who won't get justice. And the other problem is like you mentioned, these laws are putting officers at risk. They're making their jobs more dangerous. And that's this highlighted section. When possible, exhaust available and appropriate de-escalation tactics prior to using any physical force, such as creating physical distance by employing tactical repositioning and repositioning as often as necessary to maintain the benefit of time, distance, and cover. Now, you and I understand that sometimes a tactical retreat is necessary. But when I read this, what I picture in my mind is a police officer scrambling around, hiding behind trees and running around his car to try and avoid a guy coming at him with a knife, because he's not allowed to shoot him yet until he's satisfied this element of this bill. Yeah. Right. And so let's say he scrambles for a minute, he jumps out of the way, and then he shoots this guy. And so now you've got politicians looking at this use of force and reading this law going, well, he probably could have backed up a few more feet to try and reposition and use distance and cover, or he probably could have jumped up on top of his car to get away from the guy. Why did he have to shoot him? It's a circus. Bro, police officers are being put at risk with laws like this.
It's like our politicians are devoid of fucking common sense. And I don't know how we turn this around, but if you're a fucking police officer and you're expected to operate under those new laws, good fucking luck. Not only are you unable to solve any crimes at this point, but if you do attempt to try and interact with people or put yourself out there or be proactive, you're at an inherent higher risk immediately as soon as this legislation was passed. Yeah. And we just accept that. That's completely normal. And bro, you want to know what else is fucking frustrating? Like, my gym has been fucking hit by methamphetamine addicts twice in the last year, right? Both times I was able to identify the person, give an address to where they live. Because, dude, I was a criminal investigator for a long time. Yeah. I know how the game is played. Right. And I still have a lot of contacts in law enforcement. So both times I'm like, hey, this is the guy that did it. Let me write the report up. And, bro, nobody's doing anything. Those guys aren't getting arrested. Those guys aren't getting prosecuted. There was a guy that came into my fucking property. He was in my parking lot, smashing windows out of my customers' cars and taking their purses. And he took 2 girls' purses out of my parking lot. I figured out who he was off of surveillance footage. And it's really fucking simple because I started passing his picture around to cop buddies that I know, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fucking Garcia."
Yeah.
Guess how many times? Guess this is his five felony of 2021 alone.
Yeah.
Not 3 strikes and you're out.
No.
He has 5 felonies in 2021 alone. The county has had 142 contacts with him. And now he's stealing shit out of my fucking customers' cars.
When he should be behind bars.
Yeah. Hey, the officer that responded to it was actually kind of shocked. He goes, "Man, this guy got arrested for identity theft like a month ago. How is he?" And before that, it was domestic assault 4. Domestic assault 2. It was a bad one.
Yeah.
And so they said, "How is this guy out?" Even the cops were shocked that he was out. And I was like, well, I'm not fucking shocked that he was out because he's fucking high as fuck. And you know what fucking dudes that are high on meth look like?
Yeah.
And looking around and just being twitchy and weird. I'm watching him do this on my property. And then he fucking takes a bunch of shit out of some 17-year-old girl's car that was doing CrossFit at the time. Like, what about her fucking rights?
Right.
You know, you're going to let this 17-year-old girl be fucking victimized by a fucking drug addict piece of shit? The answer is yes. Local government is telling you, yes, we will let you be victimized by this guy because we've contacted him 142 times over the last however long, and he's on his 5th felony, and fuck you. Now he just took your purse too. That's where we're at. And
I really would. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying, at what point do guys like me and her dad say, "Hey, motherfucker, come here," and break his fucking jaw? Then what's going to happen? Are you guys going to come in? Are you then going to enforce the law? Am I going to go to jail now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he conducted a felony against you and we don't give a shit. But when you fucking feloniously assaulted him, now we do care. And bro, I guarantee you they would. You know why? Because I have a thriving business. I have money in the bank. I would have to pay fines. But these fucking drug addicts that are just like the Walking Dead, you can't squeeze fucking a dime out of them.
Right.
They don't care anymore. And dude, it's so fucking frustrating.
Well, I really would like to sit down with a governor or a senator or a representative and say, what exactly is your justification behind implementing policies like this? Because like you said, we have all of these victims. How many people has this guy victimized just in 2021 alone? Like you said, 5 that you know of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the countless others that haven't even been reported. So how do you reconcile that? How do you and I understand that, you know, it's one of the policies of the left that we need to allow for rehabilitation and healing and giving these guys a chance and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So how did that work out in New Jersey? A couple of months ago, this guy's name was Jerry Crawford, black guy. He was in prison. He gets released because he had a certain number of, what did they call him? He's had a certain number of COVID-19 credits, right? Because we're in the middle of a pandemic, certain inmates get credits for early release. So this guy was released early, and 2 days later, after being released from prison, kills somebody.
Shocking.
Right? Yeah. Oh, how did we not see that one coming? So you have to ask, like, who is this serving? What good are you doing?
That's right, man.
Rehabilitation takes years. This guy was out of prison 2 days. So if you can come up with a rehabilitation program that's effective over a 2-day stretch, great. Other than that, fuck your rehabilitation program. Tell that to the person tell that to the relatives of the guy that he killed.
That's right.
Tell that to the people who are constantly going out to their car and their windows are smashed out and their belongings taken and, their credit cards are being used and they have to go through all this trouble to cancel cards and, all the stuff that comes with that. And you're saying, well, yeah, but isn't someone's life worth more than your property? Well, no. They chose that life. There's an inherent risk that comes with criminal behavior. And sometimes that risk is losing your life. Now, I'm not saying that, if a cop shows up and some guy is running away with some credit cards that he's going to get shot. That's not what I'm trying to say. But you're working so hard to try and save these criminals that you're completely alienating everybody else, including the victims of these crimes.
Well, and let me say this, and I know you'll agree with me 100%. If you're a young kid and you get caught up in drugs or you get caught up in the gang culture, you make some really, really bad choices, right?
Yeah.
And you get convicted and you do your time and you get out, I want to see you do well. I want to see you change the trajectory of the path that you're on. I want to see you put that life of crime behind you. And I have some friends that did some bad shit when they were kids.
Yeah.
And while they were serving fucking time in a cage, they came to the realization, man, these choices are and making me end up in a really bad spot. So I have to change who I am and how I conduct myself. That is the overarching theme of the judicial system. That's what we want to see happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I want to see these people like, I hope for the best for all of them, right? But in order for them to have that moment where they say, fuck, the path that I'm on is not good, it's not sustainable, and have some self-reflection and have the ability to change, we have to be taking enforcement actions.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not willing to take enforcement actions, these people that may be living a life of crime or part of a gang culture or whatever it may be, or addicted to drugs, we're not giving them that opportunity to say, fuck, the path I'm on is no good and I need to change as a person. We're rewarding this fucking terrible behavior. And the only thing that does is we're just kicking the can down the street. Yeah. And that's what I keep saying to all these fucking mayors and city council members and governors. You drive around Seattle and you see the amount of homelessness, you see feces on the street, everywhere smells like piss. It's just disgusting. And it's almost like they're acting like they're doing this out of compassion. Oh, you don't understand. These people are addicted and they need us to help. Well, helping people is not letting them rot on the streets,
right,
high on fucking opioids. That is not helping people.
Yeah.
That's the absolute opposite. That fucking lifestyle is riddled with fucking disease and crime, and people are getting assaulted and their shit's getting fucking burned down all the time. Like,
yeah,
those people are in a worse reality than prison.
Yeah.
And you want to act like you're compassionate and you'll let fucking young women be fucking raped and murdered on the streets because we won't fucking enforce any laws or take any measures to clean the streets up. It's such a ass backwards way of thinking. It's like, if you want to help all these people, let's open treatment centers. Let's get some legislation through that forces people into these treatment centers. You don't get to just be high on heroin laying on the fucking sidewalk. We're going to pluck you off the fucking streets and we're going to try and help you. But that's not what we're seeing, man. That's not what we're seeing at all. And it's strange to me that the left wants to act like they're doing this out of compassion. Wrong. What you are doing is you are fucking perpetuating people in a living hell. And I mean, I'm sure you saw it too. Like methamphetamine, it rots your body. It eats people alive. There's people that all their teeth have fallen out of their head. They have open sores. They have fucking MRSA all over. And that's compassion. Like, fuck you, man.
Yeah, how's that compassion? Well, and you're just enabling, right? I mean, if you're not going to prosecute somebody for walking into a Rite Aid and filling up a grocery bag full of medication and just walking out with no consequences at all, and you can't even stop the guy, right? How is that? How is that compassion? How is that helping? Right? I think all of these policies are just a middle finger to the right.
Of course,
like they're just a middle finger to Republicans saying, you know what, we're not going to jump on board with this tough on crime policy with your law and order philosophy. We're going to let criminals just run amok, and then say fuck you, because this is our city, this is our state. I saw speaking of the sanitary conditions. In some of those big cities, I was watching a TikTok the other day. This guy, he pulled up a map of San Francisco, and there were brown markers on each spot where human feces, was visible on the sidewalk or on the street, and the entire city was covered in these brown markers. I'm like, how is this?
Bro, check this out. Like, I was and I will not go downtown anymore. This was the last straw for me. I went downtown Seattle 2 weekends ago, and we were driving through the city, and I stopped by CVS, right?
Yeah.
And dude, I was about to piss my pants too. I had to fucking piss. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go into CVS. I had a couple things to pick up.
Yeah.
And as a paying customer, I'll be able to use their bathroom. Right.
Right.
And so I walked in there and I bought a couple things. And then I asked the young lady, I was like, could I use your guys' restroom? And she goes, oh, most of the public bathrooms in Seattle have been shut down because they've been used for like drugs and sex and we've had nothing but problems in our bathroom. And I'm like, okay, I'm literally a paying customer and your bathroom's right there. And I'm about to piss my pants. And she goes, no, I'm sorry, sir. We've banned all public use of our restroom. So I walk out and I look at a couple of the other buildings and there's nothing like a store that would have a public bathroom. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm on the verge of pissing my pants. I tried to be reasonable. Right. So I guess when in Rome, right?
Yeah.
And bro, I just fucking stood there and I pissed on the sidewalk right in front of CVS. And I was like, you know what's going to happen? A patrol car is going to drive by and they're going to see this dude that's dressed fucking in a normal fucking attire, standing next to a nice 4Runner, pissing on the sidewalk, and they're going to hammer me. That's going to fucking happen. Yep. And I'm going to get some fucking indecent exposure fucking charge or something.
Yeah.
Nope. Nobody even batted an eye, dude. And I just pissed and got in my 4Runner and left. And it's like, that's where this fucking city is at.
Yeah.
I'm done with fucking Seattle. And here's the funniest part. It fucking reeked like piss everywhere on that block as is. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm just another one of the guys at this point. How have we arrived here?
Yeah. You know? We're going backwards. We're really like, we're going backwards. I spent some time in Germany. And I remember when the first day I arrived in Germany, I was downtown and there's this old dude just pissing on the sidewalk, you know, just kind of standing there and there's other people around. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's how things are here, you know, but you know, that's Europe, but I don't want to see the United States get to that point. You know, I don't want to walk down the road or walk down the sidewalk with my daughter and have a grown adult man sitting there pissing, you know,
it's foul.
Yeah.
You know, but it goes back to what we keep seeing is like the shittiest people in society are ruining it for the normal people.
Yeah.
Like I literally just wanted to go pick something up and go to the bathroom. Nope. Can't do that anymore. We've allowed these people to just fucking turn our cities into a cesspool. And now you can't even fucking take a piss anymore. It's just, I don't understand how anybody can look at Seattle or Portland or San Francisco and say, hey, you know what? The leadership's done a good job. Let's go ahead and vote them back in.
Right.
And bro, I mean, I don't want to go down too many conspiracy theories because like, who knows what's fact and what's fiction at this point.
Yeah.
But when you talk about voter fraud, I don't know one fucking person that's happy with the city of Seattle. I don't know one person that thinks Jenny Durkin's done a good job with Seattle. Yeah. So how's that fucking bitch keep getting fucking voted in?
Right.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
You have to start asking questions at some point.
You have to look at what's right in front of your fucking face and say, things don't add up. And as a police officer and as a soldier, like listening to my intuition is what kept me alive. When I was in Ramadi in 2004, and my team as a whole, we started to know when we were about to get ambushed before we got ambushed. Because you could read people's energy. You could look at people's faces. You could see how the locals are interacting with each other. Like, you started to have an intuition that like things don't feel good.
Yeah.
Boom. And a fucking IED would go off. Right.
Yeah.
So listening to your intuition is something that I've put a lot of weight in because I think that it's a really important thing to do. There's a good book. It's called The Gift of Fear. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
No.
But it's written by a guy, Gavin de Becker. You might have heard that name. He's high up in the corporate security world, right?
Okay.
And he interviewed countless rape victims. And these aren't victims like I was drunk at a party with my ex-boyfriend. Mm-hmm. It was like dudes jump out on a trail and pull a girl into the fucking bushes, right? Those kind of rape scenarios. 100% of the victims said there was something about the energy that they knew something was about to happen to them before it happened. And so the whole point of that book, The Gift of Fear, is like intuition is an evolutionary tool that was built into us that you need to trust. It's not there by accident, you know? And so when everybody's intuition is telling them there's something seems off.
Yeah.
That's something we need to listen to. But if you say that and you say, hey, I want to have an audit conducted, you're painted as a fucking lunatic, you know?
Yeah, you're bigoted. So, if you want people to be held accountable, then you're a bigot and you're a racist or whatever else they can paint you to be to make it to discredit you.
And guess what else, man? If you were in a position and you were legitimately there and you know you're legitimately there, you should be the first person to say, audit away. Please audit.
Yeah.
Please audit, because you're going to come to the conclusion that I'm your governor.
Yeah.
And that this many million people voted for me.
Yeah. Why all the secrecy? Why the need for secrecy?
If you want to be like, oh no, hush, hush, or paint people out to be crazy because they want to audit, oh, that guy's a lunatic, he's a right-wing wacko. No, jump at the chance to be transparent. And if you are legitimately there and you legitimately got the votes to be there, then you'll make the people that are saying these things about you look stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, the fact that what we're seeing happen, and that everybody's trying to discredit anybody that just wants to take another look, or do a recount, right? Mm-hmm. If that kind of stuff scares you, it's because you're fucking dirty.
Yep.
Right. Period.
Yeah, because there's something to hide, and you're trying to keep it under wraps. And if you open that box, people are going to find out what it is. So you got to protect it at all cost.
And I'm not even saying like the election was stolen, because I don't have the authority to say that, because I don't have any proof, right? Yeah. But I can say something feels off. We should probably look into it. You know, like, bro, I posted on my Instagram. I have 85,000 followers.
Yeah.
That's fucking like Nebraska State's football stadium at capacity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, think about that. 85,000 people. And I said, I want one person out of my 85,000 followers to write me a message right now and say that you think Biden is a good president.
Right.
I got 0 messages. 0. The closest thing that I got is one girl wrote me and goes, my mom likes him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to take a pool of 85,000 people. And I get it. They're following me and I'm more of a conservative person. So it might not be like a perfect fucking example, but at the same time, 85,000 people, not one person. Like, there's too many things that don't add up that we should be looking into this a little more.
Right.
You know? But
yeah, but you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to ask questions. You just have to fall in line.
We're the fucking crazy ones, you know?
Well, and so speaking of asking questions about our leadership, so I know that you've probably got some thoughts on this, and I'll tell you over the past, few days since this happened, as far as Afghanistan goes, I've been thinking, because I wasn't a military guy. I wasn't over there. So, I don't know what the answer is. I know that Trump had a plan to pull the troops out by, I think it was May 1st. What's the answer here? I mean, as far as our presence in Afghanistan, minus the civilians, right? What's happening to the civilians is absolutely terrible. And I can't even imagine, the type of pain and horror and suffering that they're going to go through at the hands of the Taliban. But as far as the Afghan government and their own military, if it's so fragile and tenuous that as soon as we pull out, they're taken over, what other alternative, or how long are we supposed to stay there? Give me your perspective as a guy who is over there actually doing the work over there.
Well, I can tell you this, like right out of the gates, something that I think the American government is out of touch with is trying to give people freedom for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because freedom is something that should be earned, not given.
Yeah.
Right. And what we saw, especially in Iraq, I saw this shit firsthand. If you just give people freedom and free will and the ability to do what they want with it, people think that that's going to cause this like utopia. But what a lot of people do is they abuse that freedom. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can do what I want now. I've always hated my neighbor. I'm going to go fucking shoot him. That shit happened in Iraq everywhere. And it's because our cultures are different than their culture.
Yeah.
Our culture was founded on, going back to George Washington, a group of people that were willing to fight a revolution for their freedom and go against the biggest superpower the world had ever known at the time in the English army and
Yeah.
say, you know what? We're willing to put everything on the line because we want to be a free people, and we earned it.
Yeah.
And so when you think you can just give something to someone and it's not earned, it's just like spoiling a child, right?
Yeah.
If I buy my daughter a brand new fucking car when she turns 16, she's not going to respect that car like she would if she had to work 7,000 shifts at Starbucks to buy that car, right? And so I think we had unrealistic expectations that we would go into these countries, we would get rid of these regimes and these dictators, and then everything would be good. Mm-hmm. And then we would just implement a westernized government.
Yeah.
And these people would be able to fucking govern themselves and we could go home. That's what we thought was going to happen. It didn't happen in any of the places. It didn't happen in Iraq. It didn't happen in Afghanistan. But this is what I'll say about Afghanistan. I do agree that we can't be the world police. We can't take care of everybody forever, right? But here's the facts. We went there. We caused this fucking mess.
Yeah.
We put a bunch of people at risk. And now what are we going to do with it? We're just going to fucking leave and let them fend for themselves and let them clean up the mess that we're fucking capable of creating? That doesn't make sense to me either, man.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people that worked with the coalition forces as interpreters or Afghan military or just lots of different positions where they were helping the allied forces. Bro, we're leaving those people to be raped and executed. And it's happening as we're fucking speaking.
Yeah.
And so I can't understand how we just leave all of these fucking resources and all of these people behind because you don't want to fucking develop the correct contingency plan of evacuating the US forces from Iraq. It just goes back to absolute, complete incompetence from this administration.
Yep.
Have you seen all the videos of all of the weapons that they now have?
Yeah. I was watching a video just yesterday. That was insane.
So check this out. As a 21-year-old Ranger, I was a fucking E5 team leader. If we came across weapons, guess what we would fucking do? Because we're not going to fucking carry a cache of weapons around with us. Yeah. We put them in a big fucking pile. We put a block of C4 on it. We run some det cord, and then we put time fuse and we blow it in place. Now those weapons can no longer be used by anybody, good or evil, right? I don't understand how I had a solution to leaving fucking caches behind as a 21-year-old kid, but the fucking administration of the fucking world's superpower just decides to fucking leave. Bro, there's night vision, there's infrared lasers, there's aircraft. We just gave all of this technology and weaponry to the fucking Taliban. Like, it's so frustrating, dude, because it's like, I mean, some of my buddies are having like, it's almost making like their PTSD flare up because it's like, dude, we have buddies killed over there. For me, I'm not like, it's not affecting me in that way, but it's just another highlight of the absolute incompetence of the people running this country. Like, if you're a young person right now and you want to be a Ranger or a Navy SEAL, I'm telling people, dude, I would sit out for 4 years. I would let shit show of an administration fucking play itself out before I would be willing to serve this country. Because, dude, if they end up sending troops back into Afghanistan, this was fucking 100% avoidable. Yeah. 100% avoidable, you know? And I don't think people understand, like, dude, those clips, there's people holding on to the fucking landing gear of aircraft as planes are taking of fucking jets, C-17s taking off from Kabul International Airport. That's a death sentence in itself.
Yep. That's how desperate they are.
People are willing to give that a shot over facing the Taliban in their streets because they know what that means. Dude, the fuck ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, like, these people are ruthless on a level that most people can't comprehend. But you should fucking, like, How many videos have we seen of people being burned alive in cages and beheaded while they're alive? Like it's no secret. We know what we're dealing with these people.
Yeah.
And like all the Taliban leadership was sitting in the presidential office, fucking sending selfies out on Twitter. Did you see that?
Yeah.
How about we drop a fucking JDAM on that? Hey, motherfuckers, like we could kill all, hey, all the Taliban leadership is gathered in this one room. Well, no, just fuck.
Yep.
Like,
Level it.
What do you think Trump would have done? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we want to pull out of Afghanistan because we understand we don't want to turn a 20-year war into a 40-year war.
Yeah.
But if you guys seize the opportunity to victimize and fucking slaughter and execute, well, we could drop a JDAM on you motherfuckers. You know, they know that nobody's going to do a goddamn thing, and they're free to do whatever they want because of the cowardice of this administration. And here's the other thing you have to think about. These people were our allies. They said, hey, I'm going to be part of the American mission. I'm an allied forces. I'm going to join the Afghanistan military that is backed by the U.S. government. And then we just leave them out. We just hang them out to fucking dry and be slaughtered. How's that going to work on our next foreign fucking policy? If we have another fucking engagement, who knows where in the world for whatever reason. Yeah. If they know like your words don't mean anything, good fucking
nobody
luck.
Trusts the American government now.
Yeah, exactly. We've lost all of our credibility. And then here's the last thing I'll say on it. And I don't know if this is internet rumors or if there's any validity to it, but supposedly, have you read that the Chinese have agreed with the Taliban to be able to utilize like minerals and natural resources throughout Afghanistan?
Yeah, I've been seeing China's name pop up on a lot of stuff related to this.
And so I don't know if that's true or not. Time will tell. But it's like, are we really this stupid that we're going to allow China to just become the superpower that we fucking are going to have to bend a knee to one day? Yeah. I mean, that's where this is all going, you know?
Well, and I think it just all comes back to an inept administration, right? Spineless. Biden is just completely incompetent. And it goes back to what you said. I want to see a show of hands of how many people think that Biden should still be in office, given what we've already gone through, right? Not to mention all of the empty promises, but, you know, as far as everything going on domestically, I get people all the time tell me, because I posted a TikTok the other day about gas prices. It cost me $120 to fill up my pickup.
Yeah, dude.
The other day, and I was being sarcastic and saying, you know what, I'm just relieved that we don't have to tolerate any more mean tweets from President Trump. I'm willing to make the sacrifice and pay all this money to fill up my truck with this really expensive gas. And then people are like, well, the president doesn't decide what the gas prices are. I'm like, I know that the president doesn't wake up in the morning and say, raise the gas prices to $4 a gallon. I get that.
It's trickle down effect, though. Make no mistake.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Democrats have always tried to curb domestic oil production. So if you're unwilling to produce domestic oil, you have to import it because we still, everything runs on gasoline. Our cars, our trains, our planes, everything is we need oil in order to make the world go round, at least for now. And when you have to import it, it's more expensive and there's tariffs associated with that. And that all trickles down to the consumer. So yeah, when Biden regulates the oil industry, it has an effect.
Bro, you want to talk about putting the tinfoil hat on. What made me realize there's a lot more than meets the eye with the American government and American politics. Remember the Democratic primary where there was 10 different fucking people from the Democratic Party on that stage? Yep. Literally, regardless of people's politics, right? Regardless if you agree with their policy, I would argue every other person on that stage could sit down and have a conversation like we're having right now and articulate thoughts, articulate ideas, stand up for what they believe to be morally and ethically correct. And like Tulsi Gabbard is a great example of that. And every time I bring her up, people are like, fuck her policy. It's like, you can say whatever you want about Tulsi Gabbard. I think she has a good heart. And I think the words that are coming out of her mouth are congruent with what she feels in her heart.
Yeah.
Every other person up there was a more competent, articulate person, and they gave us Biden. That proves to me that there's more than meets the eye here.
Yeah.
They specifically chose the old senile fucker that is clearly out of touch with what's going on around him, and it should be fucking criminal what they're doing to him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's exploitation of a vulnerable adult.
Seriously, bro. And that's who we got as leader of the free world, the worst candidate up there on the stage. What's going on? And it's like, that makes it that much easier to believe that we are being fucking controlled by an outside entity, and this is orchestrated, and there are other people pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that some of that stuff is going on, I don't think you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are, like I said, people are complacent, and they need to pull themselves out of that complacency, because if there's any time to pull together and have the strength in numbers, it's now. Like, we got to do it now. We can't wait until everything, we can't wait until they vaccinate us all and lock us all down. Unless you want to live in the reality that Australia is living in right now, we have to do something now. And I think it starts locally, just like everything else does. If your city or your county is pulling some unconstitutional shit that you just don't want to get on board with, then gather as many people together as you can and speak out against it. Start signing petitions, start writing letters, start protesting, not rioting or looting, protesting, and make your voice heard, because that's the only way. I mean, because the other side is very loud, right? The left, and especially the radical left, they're willing to yell and scream and burn and loot and riot and kill people for what they want. I'm not saying we have to be that extreme, but we definitely have to be louder than they do.
I think you need to be willing to be slightly uncomfortable right now to ensure that you're not greatly uncomfortable later.
Yeah.
Because if we don't turn the trajectory around of our country and redirect what's taking place, I mean, look at how far the country has fallen inside of 2 years. If it continues on the trajectory that it's on right now, people will be standing in lines for food. People will be fucking starving. Yeah. People will be killing each other in the fucking streets. And everybody thinks America is exempt to that. But look at Hurricane Katrina. One natural disaster, that fucking place was a fucking battleground.
Yeah.
I have buddies that were police officers in the fucking thick of it. People killing each other. Dude, they were having shootouts with people that wouldn't even get reported. It's just like they'd be fucking moving water from point A to point B. My buddy told me that there was fucking dudes that were they had fucking shootings where people were getting killed and it never even got reported. Imagine that as a police officer. Hey, I killed a guy today. I didn't even have to write a report on it. Like,
just like in the movies.
Yeah, bro. It was fucking bananas down there.
Oh, man.
And that was because of one natural disaster and a bunch of shitty people exploited it, right?
Yeah.
Our society is not exempt to that. And the more we allow this to just grow into a monster and get out of control, when the time comes to try and turn this country around, it's going to be harder and harder and harder. And we'll fucking see where it goes, man. But I don't think that it is out of the realm of possibility, if we don't fucking change our current trajectory, that we will be seeing violence in American streets.
Yeah.
How much longer can we just be victimized? How much longer can we allow our cities to be fucking degraded and turned into these cesspools? How much longer can our police officers not be allowed to do their jobs? And it's like, if you would have shown somebody from 50 years ago the current state of America, they would say, fuck, it's already lost.
Yeah.
This is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. And and people in past decades, like our ancestors, and they've seen some scary shit.
Yeah.
With everything that went on, in the 60s and, in the 80s. And they're, like you said, they would be looking at us going, Jesus, you guys have your work cut out for you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a perfect point to bring up, because my papa, he's almost 80. Because I asked him, I said, am I just, now that I'm 40 years old and I have some life experience, am I looking at this current situation and thinking like the sky is falling? He's like, Greg, I've been around twice as long as you. I've experienced a lot more than you. and he was in Vietnam and whatnot, and he said, right now is the fucking scariest time of my entire life. I've never seen anything like this ever. I've never felt the way I feel ever. And I'm right there with you. And that gave me validity to feel how I feel, because I was like, okay, this isn't just me being crazy Anderson.
Yeah.
People that have twice as much life experience as me are saying right now is the most concerning time of their life. And so it's time to wake up, open your fucking eyes, and see what's happening and do what you need to do to change the trajectory. And it starts, like you said, it starts with our communities and our cities. But even before that, it starts with the individual. Mm-hmm. It starts with the individual saying, nope, I'm done with your games. I'm not playing anymore. I'm not your fucking subject. I'm not your slave. I get to make my own decisions on what goes into my body. I get to make my own decisions on how I interact with my community and where I should put my resources. And what they're doing is they're trying to take all that away, and the government gets to dictate every level of your life. And bro, they would fucking have us in camps if they could. Like, they're serious.
Trying, apparently. Apparently they're trying.
Like, I don't see the government having my best interests in mind anymore. So if that makes me the fucking crazy one, so be it. But the only person that has your best interests in mind is you.
Yep.
And the people that you build relationships with that mean something to you. And that's why it's time to turn this shit around, man, or it might be too late, you know?
Well, I certainly hope not. I mean, I hope it doesn't get to the point where, like you said, there's violence in the streets of America. Not that we don't already have that, but to the point where, like, it's us versus them type of violence, and we have to fight to regain our constitutional rights. That's a bad day. And I think we can, I hope we can turn it around before then. But like you said, everybody's got to wake up. Everybody's got to snap out of this complacency fog and say, you know what? Yeah, I do need to step out of my comfort zone and start speaking up and start making my voice heard, start writing letters, start sending emails, start making phone calls, do whatever you have to do to make as much noise as possible to let your elected officials know that you're not happy with the way they're running things. You didn't elect them to do what they're doing, and they need to knock the shit off, or they're going to be, voted out, recalled, impeached, whatever the case is, so that somebody who's competent and who is responsible and who has their constituents' best interest in mind to replace them.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
And, the last thing I'll say on this is, like, when I say, like, unrest in the streets or violence in the streets, it's like, do I think it's going to be like a people versus the government type scenario? Like, not necessarily. As soon as we don't have the resources to respond and take care and manage our cities, like, dude, Seattle just said it's a 1 hour call for calls of service, a 1 hour response time now. 1 hour.
Man.
So it's going to reach a point where if we don't have the capabilities of maintaining law and order will no longer exist. And that is something it would grow like a snowball. And as soon as people realize, I can do what I want. A lot of people would do good with that, but it only takes a small percentage to do evil with that. And it could spin out of control in a hurry. And that's where I would see, like, civil unrest and just chaos in our streets. Is that if we don't have the resources to control these crazy people are going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And dude, you can look at anywhere else on planet Earth. You look at Somalia, do people think like we're any different? Like, people are people. And there's a percentage of people that want to do shitty things and take power and control. And that's what we would see here too, man. And I almost think it's funny that America thinks we're exempt from the human condition,
Yeah. No, we're definitely not. Well, bro, it's been fun. It's been 2.5 hours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I knew it would be that way, but I'm sure you have other things to do.
I actually have to collect up a bunch of garbage and do a dump run. So you are correct.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, but I knew this was going to be a good talk, a good interview. And that's how I wanted to kick things off. So
cool. I appreciate it. Well, I'll tell guys, if you want to follow me, if you appreciate my point of view, or if you hate me and you want to follow me, my Instagram is Granderson33. And then there's a little, as Nate is putting on the screen right now, Endless Endeavor Podcast is my own podcast We're on episode 62, so we've been at it a little over a year. It's been doing really well, and it's been a fun journey. So I'm definitely going to keep pursuing that.
Sweet. Well, thanks again, Greg. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Officer Nate Podcast.